It's Bobbins time. You ready for some Bobbins, Gemma? Some Bobbins discussion about 2023 in Coronation Street. This is our awards show where it's a bit of a different. We've been doing this for a few years now, and it's where we take a light-hearted look, a little cheeky glance at some of what we didn't quite like about Coronation Street in the year before. So we're going to be looking back at 2023 and maybe saying some not too nice things, but in a pleasant and constructive way. Does that kind of summarise it well enough for you?
Yeah. Normally, though, I feel excited about doing this, but today I just feel sad. I feel like I'm bullying somebody.
I feel
like I'm kicking people when they're down.
We weren't as bubbling over with positivity for Coronation Street in 2023 in our end of year summary. I tried my best, but I think there's possibly more to pick holes in it this year than there are in previous years. That wouldn't be out of the question to say. But the Bobbins isn't all about that. Some of it is about things that we don't like or things that we think are ridiculous. But some of it's, I guess, looking at purposefully bad things. That's a few categories for that. That's all right. So don't feel completely bad about it, Gemma.
I do though.
But feel good about the fact that I know that lots of our listeners really do love the Bobbins Awards, and this is sometimes some of them look forward to this even more so than our normal video awards show.
Shall we try to make this fun rather than depressing?
Yes, we will try. We'll try our best to do that. We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be difficult in a few cases. Now, if you're listening and you're thinking, hang on a minute, I missed the chance to vote in this. Where were the nominations? Where was the form for me to fill out online? Don't worry. This is an award show with a difference. This is one where you don't have to feel guilty about voting someone or something the worst. It's all down on us. So we've got our nominations that we've come up with ourselves. We've had some listeners sending in some of theirs as well. And at the end of the day, it's going to be me and thee who decide who takes the prize home, aren't we?
We're not giving out prizes.
We're not giving out any prizes, and surprisingly, there aren't any acceptance speeches with the cast members for this one as well. Although I'm sure they would all take it in good fun. Because they're a sporting bunch, aren't they? We're not trying to be mean. So
this is like the Razzies.
This is like the Razzies.
When they gave poor what's his face.
What are you talking about?
Hang on.
I think the difference between this and the Razzies is they don't spend the first 3 minutes of the Razzie Awards apologising just for existing.
I don't know, do they? We don't. What's his name? Bruce Willis.
Oh, yeah.
They gave him a load of awards for being terrible, and then it turned out that
there's a reason why he's doing those types of films. Okay,
so apologies if anybody is accidentally bad.
That's like I said.
We're not picking on it. We're not picking on the actors.
Anybody.
We're not picking on actors, are we?
It's just a fun thing to do.
There's nothing horrible here. It's just and all the stuff that is bad. It's got shared responsibility amongst several people who can all blame someone else.
Yes,
surely. Apart from Ian McLeod.
Apart from Ian McLeod, the book stop was him.
Exactly.
So that's kind of basically what we're doing today. I'm having a chat and seeing what we're gonna. What?
I haven't checked my email to see if I've got that job offer.
No, I still don't think that they're going to be giving you that producer's job, but you never know.
I'm up for it.
Right, so let's make a start with the Do One New One award, which is where we take a look at who was our least favourite newcomer of the year. Now, when we were coming up with the list for the A-Up Award, for the main awards show, we did point out to each other that it wasn't there weren't very many big new names for 2023, were there? I mean, if anything, Cassie is probably the biggest.
Yeah.
And we did have one of our listeners, Lisa, put her forward as a nomination for Do One New One. I can't quite agree with that one. I do genuinely really think that...
enjoy her.
I do enjoy Cassie. I think
a spanner in the works, which is what we should have more of on Corrie. It shouldn't be... Although this is kind of a great example of that exact thing I'm just about to say. A new character coming in to cause trouble.
Yeah, no, she
I don't know how permanent she's going to be.
No, and I wouldn't say that her character was necessarily needed. We weren't going into 2023 going, God, I hope that Tyrone's mum comes in soon. I think the dynamics at number 9 were absolutely fine without her, but there have been some fantastic Cassie scenes, and I think there were more characters who are more worthy of this award. But thank you anyway, Lisa, for the suggestion. Yeah, we name and shame you, Lisa. Anyone kind of spring to mind for you that you think you'd be gunning for?
Me.
Not literally.
Me.
Oh, Crystal. Yeah, tell me why. In actual words.
Me. What is the point of her, honestly? I mean, she's such a drip.
Crystal's an interesting case because she was in it during the summer for a bit, and then Ryan was kind of fancying her a bit, and then she was horrible. And when she realised that he had, a bit of scarring to the face, she didn't want to know. She didn't want that relationship. But then she came back, and for whatever reason, maybe it was the coma that she was in over the summer holidays, she realised, oh, actually, you're a not bad chap after all. Now she's whisked him off to Scotland.
Nothing she does makes any sense.
She is, fairly devoid of personality so far, apart from beautiful and, I guess, forgiving.
It's really bizarre because she's got like a really complicated backstory for a character that's been in 10 episodes maximum probably.
Yeah.
And she's got so many really strong motivations for what she's done, but when she turned up the second time, that she just turned into like a big pussy, didn't she?
Yeah.
Well, she's just like, she's just me. She's just such a drip.
It felt like she was necessary to get Ryan off the show to try and create a bit of space between.
But why didn't he just say, I'm going to Scotland because I'm fed up with you, Daisy? Honestly.
Especially as he had lived there before. I think Crystal's a strong contender. I mean, I personally think that Isabella could be up there.
Oh, I liked her.
Did you? Okay.
I didn't like the way it ended, though. It ended like a bit silly.
I found her just a bit too irritating. Not in a case of, haha, we're supposed to love how irritating she is, but she did wind me up. Nancy suggested her and her story as being a contender for this as well. I enjoyed when she...
I wish she was a bit more Italia,
I thought it was funny when she...
They were quite restrained, really.
She super glued, was it George's boat to the table in number 11? That was kind of funny. But she just kind of wound me up, and then she was being mean to Rita. She was supposed to be an obnoxious character, but I wasn't going along with the fun of it particularly. And I was just left a bit confused about, was her house actually, or her flat actually being renovated? Did the plot serve any purpose? Because at the end of it, we didn't even have Brian and Mary together as a couple, which is what I assumed it was leading towards.
It did feel like that, it was going somewhere that it didn't go.
Yeah, she was an irritant to me, but I'd happily pick Crystal over her. Speaking of which, I think it's too soon to put Bobby
We're not going to put Bobby in.
as a genuine nomination.
It's not really fair,
He's only been in a handful of episodes so far. If he doesn't change his spots, then by golly, he's going to be up for nomination this time next year. But it's still too early days for Bobby. But yeah.
I think I read this on Reddit somewhere, but somebody was pointing out that he's supposed to be annoying the characters, not the audience.
Yeah.
Like, he's supposed to irritate the characters, and we're supposed to watch him and go, haha, he's winding Carla up, but he's just winding us
Simon
up.
In this case, because I think Simon's not the most popular character, isn't in yesterday's episode.
It made him, put them two together and actually make Simon seem like a
made
normal
to sympathise for him, didn't he? Okay, so we're not going to go for... what about, like, Joel? I would certainly say he's a strong contender. We had Just Manic suggesting Joel as well for the Do One New One award.
I don't know. I'm waiting. I think something's up with it.
I think that's the only thing that's stopping me. With Crystal, I feel her story is over, but Joel, as bland and dull as he has been so far and completely purposeless, apart from putting a smile on Dee Dee's face, which I've enjoyed. There's got to be something.
If there's not anything, then we'll retrospectively give him this award. But I've seen some theories. I think.
Yeah, I've seen a few theories relating to Joel. He's been in it too long for there to be nothing going for him other than, he's a boyfriend for Dee Dee and he finds out about Ed's gambling. But they could still have given him a bit of a personality, couldn't they? He's literally just hunky lawyer, I suppose. Okay. But I'm sorry, but Joel would be up there. Anyone else you think is worth considering before we give it to Crystal? Jerry. I wrote down Jerry. Yeah, I wrote down Jerry because Jerry suggested Jerry. Kung Fu Jerry.
Oh yeah, no.
I think he's too small a character.
Yeah,
I don't think we were expecting much of Jerry, so I think he's managed. I wouldn't want to give him the award. He'd probably Kung Fu me.
You can really tell when a character comes in. Like, is this character in it as a sort of extra with lines, or is this a character? And I think mostly everyone else is a character.
Yeah, as small as they have been, I think Jerry was just... he was put in there as a bit of a spanner in the works in Elaine and Stephen's relationship, wasn't he? So I'm not giving it to him. Courtney, maybe? I think her story feels like it's over.
People do not like Courtney.
No,
What did she...
She had more of a personality than Crystal, for sure. We're not judging storylines here, but that whole story we've kind of felt is fairly misjudged. It wasn't as raunchy and sexy and racy as we really wanted it to be. It was just a bit creepy.
Yeah, I think maybe Courtney deserves this.
I'm not sure. I think there were bits where Courtney was quite fun. I think there was when she was hiding from Dev, I enjoyed her. She wasn't very nice to Ardy, and she wasn't very good for Ardy in the end. But I think as a character with personality, she did have a bit more going for her than Crystal did. She wasn't just, the boobs, the lips, the hair. I think she had a bit of spark to her.
It's hard. I dislike both of these characters almost the same.
I wonder whether, I don't believe we're supposed to have been hugely invested in Crystal, but I think we were supposed to have invested more in Courtney. So maybe maybe she should get the award because there was more hanging on her. That whole story was, really put forward as, hey, look at this racy new summer romance, and it turned into a bit of a flub, didn't it? I mean, I suppose we could give it to, what's her husband, Darren?
Darren.
Okay, too small to be actually worthy of an award here.
Right.
Same with the likes of Owen. I mean, I'm not giving it to him.
I think Crystal deserves this award because when she came back, she might as well. I don't even know why they brought Crystal back. Genuinely, she wasn't the same character. She didn't act the same. They could have just got him a new girlfriend. It
prolonged the slightly unnecessary Ryan Daisy dynamic. She got a bit jealous of him having someone around. It made sense to me, but like with Joel, I wish they'd given her more of a personality, especially as there was obviously an end in sight.
They gave her a personality to start with. I wonder whether they wrote just a new character and then they went, why don't we just get her back to do?
Yeah, possibly.
To read these lines out.
I certainly wasn't expecting her to return when she went off in the summer and then we found out that she was in a coma. But I suppose we could be seeing her again because we're expecting to see Ryan again.
What a bizarre and stupid story to give such a bit character. Why didn't we watch her having, she sounded like she was having more exciting times than some of the things that was going on in Corrie this year. She was in a coma. She had an accident.
She was in Ibiza, living at large.
She actually, maybe we should be following Crystal around, but not current Crystal.
Or at least on her Instagram. her send PX. Okay, well let's give this to Crystal then. I think that Courtney, Isabella. Very strong contenders, and if he hadn't come in so late, Bobby, I'm sorry, he'd be right up there at the moment. But there we go, first award goes to Crystal. Next up, Gemma, this is the Grey Hoodie Award. Do you want to say a little bit about what this one's all about?
This is for the least menacing villain, isn't it? This is for the villains who...
Rubbishist villain.
Who kind of try to... like they're gangsters, but they really just like the sort of people that hang outside the shops to ask you to buy them vapes.
In some cases, these are villains who are purposefully written as a bit rubbish, and in other cases, I think we were supposed to find them more intimidating and scary and generally villainous than they actually were, but it didn't work for us. Grey Hoodie named after the what was it even? Was it a gang of teens that Simon was in maybe about 5 years ago? And everybody seemed to be wearing grey hoodies.
Didn't they ever fight with Ardy? And throw rubbish everywhere?
Possibly we might be thinking of the same people. I don't know, but okay. Anyone particularly? I mean, does Stephen, is he deserving of a Grey Hoodie award? I'm gonna say no. He was a very ineffective villain, but that was on purpose.
He was camp. I don't think Grey Hoodies are camp, are they? I don't know.
No, to me, and I know lots of people didn't like Stephen, and this is me and you deciding the outcomes of these awards, and there's probably some people out there saying, well, obviously it should be Stephen. He was the biggest villain of the year and the biggest disappointment for me, so why not give it to him? But you're not going to get that one out. He actually
killed people. It's not like he bumbled his way into accidentally giving Rita too many newspapers. He killed people, so
yeah.
Rufus is also a bit of a
Rufus for
swaggery.
Me. He what was he? I suppose he was a villain. He was just he was the thorn in Stephen's side, wasn't he? He was the villain of the villain. Does that make him a hero? I don't know. But I kind of enjoyed watching him. I thought his cheeky Cockney ways were quite endearing to me. He had a great exit. I don't think that Rufus is a serious contender for me. If I'm thinking of the most ineffective of the ineffective, I'm going to say that Maggie stands quite a chance there. Now, this was also suggested by Rebecca. Gemma says, "Who's Maggie?" And I think that's pretty good for saying, well, maybe we should give it to her. This is the woman who took Toya and Spider hostage with the gun after kidnapping Toya, sticking her in a van, because what the story behind her? Spider had sent down her
husband was a drug dealer that Spider got in with to betray them, and then he ended up. Did he kill himself, or was he killed?
I don't know whether he was just sent down. I can't remember. Either way.
Yeah, he did die because she was going, "I'm going to kill Toya." So you.
Okay. So whatever.
Oh my God.
This was a villain for all of about 2 episodes who facilitated Spider's exit through one of the most cringy hostage scenes and pointless and drama for the sake of drama.
There were so many things that didn't make sense.
We saw last year.
Like, why is her number still on your phone, Spider? What are you doing? You're supposed to be undercover somewhere else now.
She had Toya in the van. She managed to escape somehow. She couldn't even kill Spider properly.
No.
And that was just a silly twist with the bulletproof vest that he was on. Everything about that particular series of scenes for Toya and Spider, I just gives me the shudders. Is that Maggie's fault? The fact that you didn't remember who she was, but now you do, and it is the most ineffective. What did she actually achieve? Nothing. I'm gonna say.
Also, why is she called Maggie?
Maggie. I think Maggie's a great name for an ineffective villain.
But if you're like
Maggie's a kind of cosy, lovely sort of name.
Maggie shot me. Does that sound right?
Worked for Mr. Burns.
True. That's a spoiler.
Sorry, spoiler for series 6 of The Simpsons 7.
Yeah, good call, Rebecca.
Yeah, I think that she would definitely be out there. We've got some, of course, there's villains who are supposed to be bigger that we didn't really enjoy so much. You got the likes of Mason, Damon, for example. Do you think that they're more deserving of the grey hoodie than Maggie? Damon's a tricky one for me because he's been trying to redeem himself, and even through last year he was saying, "I'm not a villain, I'm a goodie, Sarah, come on, I've changed," and we did see some not so good things that he was involved in with the drugs, and I don't know whether if we gave it to Damon it'd just me saying I wasn't too sold on the Damon story or character, and I was kind of glad when he left.
I don't think he deserves to be on here.
I think that Kieran Griffiths can do intimidating. He can, he does the job well enough. It's just not the sort of job that I like to watch. And Mason, I've seen his critics online. I actually do quite enjoy watching Mason. I think that Luca has, yes, maybe they cast him too old, but for a nasty school bully. In my head, I'm saying, Aidan Critchley I enjoyed more, and that's definitely true. But I think his kind of smirking... I
agree with you.
His ways are good enough to save him, from the grey hoodie for me, especially when we've got Maggie as a contender. Then what about the likes of, say... Aaron, should he be considered here? No, why not?
I just think it's a different category, isn't it? I don't think it's...
Aaron was a difficult one because it was like, was he a villain? Obviously he did something abhorrent, but despite the whole thing, it was supposed to be even supposed good guys can do terrible things. And yes, he didn't own up to it after
to be in the grey hoodie winner.
Too grey to be in the grey hoodie awards.
I don't want to get into it anymore.
What about then, Henry? Villain?
Was he a villain? I mean, stealing someone's wife is... You can't really steal someone's wife, can you?
I'm trying to think now.
Because they have to come to you.
He was maybe more of a villain last time. He changed, hadn't he?
He was a bit rehabilitated.
His personality was definitely different. He
Hopelessly
saved the Rovers in a way,
Gemma
didn't he?
is not a crime.
No,
Even though lots of people say it should be.
So I don't think I could count him, to be honest. Terry, the dog rustler.
Oh yeah, he's pretty crap.
Tell me more. What's? Because I'm thinking he
didn't fill out the forms correctly.
I think as somebody who was, the actor, I don't remember the actor who played Terry. I think that he did an all right job of just being, horrible, chavvy guy down the estate that you want for that sort of role. I think he was nasty enough. He certainly wasn't in any way a deep villain. But
nobody talks about how he's single-handedly keeping the car air freshener industry alive by buying tens and tens of those.
The Pine Fresh. to hang from the ceiling.
Imagine how much that must have really stunk.
He was very naughty in what he did with those dogs. But
what did he do? He didn't have the license,
Jen. We're not getting into this.
Did they
every time we bring up Terry?
Actually say that he abused them? This. I can't remember.
They were in horrible little cages.
They were in a little cage for 5 minutes. Like, it's because we saw the behind the scenes stuff, and they can't really do anything horrible to the puppies on screen, can they? So he just put them in a too small cage.
It was. I can't believe that they were very nice conditions.
Didn't pay council tax.
I think that Evelyn said to, I can't remember whether it was Cassie last week, that he had been done for animal cruelty as well.
I know, but there was so much scope for them to actually, all they had to do was have a little bag, with some sad suggestion of a dead puppy in it, and him throw it in the bin.
Oh my god. Imagine the complaints. Just imagine.
But if you're going to do a story about animal cruelty and illegal puppy farming, then we spent the whole episode going, look at those cute puppies. I bet you Claire Spinney's having a time of her life.
We should have been going that.
Puppies. We should have been going, oh my god, this guy's a monster. I hope they stab him in the neck. I don't want them to get the police round. I want them to put him in a bag and stick him in the bin. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
There's just so much potential to actually make him a villain.
I think,
again, like I said, filling out forms. I'm not a big fan of it, so I can see why he didn't.
I've just got a couple of other... Blake, the guy who stabbed Alia, I suppose he did a fairly good job. She recovered quite quickly, it's true, so he could have done better. And he was led by Max rather than just having a brain of his own. I don't think... I think he was more effective than Maggie still. Neither of them are particularly memorable, but, at least he did draw a bit of blood.
Yeah, when Maggie was on screen, I just kind of like...
I was just shaking my head throughout that whole... Can we give it to Maggie, can we?
Yeah.
Maggie,
sorry,
you got something from us. You deserve the grey hoodie. Good job, girl.
Oh.
Mardy Mare next, Gemma. These are... Up next are our Sexist Awards.
Yeah.
These are
gender stereotype awards.
Yes. This is where we are celebrating, as it were, the naggiest, whingiest women of Coronation Street. Sometimes on purpose, and Corrie is all about strong women, and maybe to be a strong woman, sometimes you have to be forceful, but sometimes that comes out as a bit of a nag and a whinge.
A man can be in Mardy Mare though. We could put a man in here.
Do you reckon?
I think Adam's a bit of a Mardy Mare, isn't he?
Well, he's not on my list of nominations. Out of who we've got, anybody particularly. I find this sort of a bit more difficult because I'm thinking, we've got the bog standard sort of annual nominees like Beth and Leanne, but is there
not been too bad this year because she's not really been in it.
It was more the beginning of the year for Leanne when she wasn't happy with Damon, getting too close to the bistro, and Nick knew what a nasty piece of work he was, and then when Sam decided to throw Nick out, Leanne was like, "Yeah, Nick, you can go and live somewhere else."
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't think that's enough to. I don't think that's enough to get that nomination. I think you need to be persistently Mardy. Beth wasn't especially Mardy, although she had her time when she was split up from Kirk. But I think I don't think that 2023 is the Mardy year for her.
Lauren.
I think Lauren's quite a strong contender. Do you wanna fight your case there?
No doubt something awful will come out about why she's such a Mardy Mare and what's going on with her and who her secret boyfriend is and who she's on the phone to and why she desperately trying to get this money, etc. I'm sure that it feels fairly obvious what's going on, but
she's just seems to have a permanent all the time. She's just and a frown on her
Even
face.
When she's out having fun, there's some kind of tragedy behind it. Like when she was out having drinks in the last episode we watched with Gavin and that. She's just miserable.
I'm not. And that makes me hard. That makes it hard for me to really care about what her tragic backstory is, which, like you said, is clearly coming, and it seems to be fairly obvious what route it's going down.
And
but
she's
I need to like
she
her.
just gives up too easily.
Yeah,
and she's just a victim.
It's a shame because she started the year quite strong, and I remember when she was together with Max in the flat with Griff and everybody. I shipped them. But then she went off to Cornwall, I think it was, and then came back later in the year. And I was a bit surprised to see her again. But they're just doing the Ian McLeod. Well, it's not just him. The Coronation Street thing of let's pour misery on these poor girls until everybody's sick of them whining. We had it with Summer last year. But even with Summer, she had more going for her to remember when Summer would, made a smile with such and such. And I really, struggle to think what that could be for Lauren, apart from I kind of enjoyed her for a bit when she was with Max.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to elaborate too much, and we've said so many things about Lauren, and this is hopefully that people are listening to this are regular listeners, because there's a lot to be said about why Lauren is so miserable, and a lot of it is not inside her control, and in real life, etc., etc. It's not about that, though, is it?
No, it's how we feel when we're watching her.
And there have been other fictional characters in the show who I think they're trying to make us think of her as.
Yeah. She's like clearly Betty supposed to be.
Or Gemma.
Yeah, exactly.
Who've had really horrible, tragic backstories, and we've seen them grow from,
urchin to
scallywag
to seductress.
Yeah, exactly. And Lauren is
maybe not so much for Gemma.
Maybe Lauren's on that pathway, but at the moment she's just insufferable. Yeah.
I think that maybe we will end up giving this to Lauren, but I think that Amy could be in with a shout here. Now, I've loved Amy in 2023, but it doesn't mean she hasn't been Mardy. She's been, for very good reason, fighting her fight against the evil men of Weatherfield. She, when Aaron was, she hates the police because they wouldn't listen to her about Aaron raping her. She had the whole thing where she spiked that guy in the club, or enabled him to spike himself. She's been on a campaign this past year, hasn't she? She's but not shut up about it.
But the difference between her and Lauren is that Lauren's just like, poor Lauren. Whereas Amy's like, no, I'm going to go to the police and I'm going to tell them what's what. No, I'm going to go to the club and I'm going to spike a guy myself and I'm going to dump him in the woods.
But that doesn't mean that she's any less Mardy. We've given Mardy Mao, if we've had it before, I don't remember, to the likes of Beth and Michelle before. And they've been just as passionate about what's making them Mardy as Amy has.
Yeah, but Amy's doing something. She's not just moaning about it.
Yeah, okay, no, fine, fair enough. I don't particularly want to give it to Amy. Carla has had her her Mardy points this year.
Carla's so Mardy that she sent her husband on a round-the-world cruise without her.
I'd feel bad giving it to her when, she did have those mental health issues at the beginning of the year. I know that many of them were LSD-induced, and I do like Carla, and I'm not a big Lauren fan. So
I mean, at least, again, she's been proactive, though, hasn't she? Because she investigated. She didn't believe it when people tried to fob her off, and she stood up for herself, and she's kind of one of the people that helped bring Stephen down, so...
What about, Nina and or Asher? It feels like if they were to take it'd be a double award.
Nina's far worse than Asher.
Go on.
Just moping about. She's taking the whole goth thing far too seriously. You're not supposed to be miserable. That's just a joke that people make about goths that you don't actually know what being a goth's about.
She has kind of stood back and...
She's just letting everything go wrong, isn't she? She's just making everything worse for herself by being really clingy.
Yeah, she's not really... she could have done more to actually endear herself to Asher. And I know Asher... To me, Asher was really quite annoying when she wouldn't start going on about Isla. But I still think that I would have liked to have seen Nina... The thing is, she feels so different to how she used to be, and this isn't the Character Assassination Awards, but I think Nina will surely get a mention there later on when we get to them.
Definitely.
But it's when I think what Nina has been and should be, and what Nina stands for me, which is standing up for herself, standing up for other people.
Yes, and
not caring what other people think, not taking fools lightly.
Again, this is what's happened this is what Corrie does to strong female characters, is they give them some trauma and then they make them into moaning victims. So you don't get this with male characters. It doesn't seem to happen to them. But, you know, Nina went through all the trauma with Seb and she's not been the same since. Carly can say the same thing about her not being the same since the factory stuff. So it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah,
that Coronation Street chews them up and spits them out.
To me, it feels like it's almost like her hair went blonde and then she just lost
her powers.
Yeah, but it's feeling like Lauren is probably the one that we're going to go for. Do you have any particular reason not to give it to Lauren here?
No, I want to give it to Lauren.
Okay. Dirty Dog next. Should we?
Yeah.
Just so equality of the sexes. So what's... This is just, I suppose if the Mardy Mare epitomises the worst stereotypically female traits, then for the boys, these are the guys that just drop in their pants or can't keep... It's the can't keep it in their pants award, this one, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know, anyone particular that you'd like to go for this?
And I guess you could say, as much as we say that Corrie ruins strong female characters by giving them trauma and then making them into victims... They kind of do the same thing to the men by making them into cheaters.
Yeah, no, you're right. That has been known to happen.
It's been known to
happen.
Once
or twice on Coronation. I don't think that the nominations are as obvious. Sometimes you do get these guys that are having an affair for the whole of the year, which we haven't had so much of this year, or people that are just moving from woman to woman. That's not what 2023 has been about. But I think that maybe, like, Ryan, maybe... That's been the closest there's been to an affair, hasn't there? With him supposedly... I don't know, he's not, but he's been going out with Daisy but he's not been cheating on anybody.
Wow.
Crystal,
no,
maybe?
I know. I was just about to say that, and then you did exactly what I was going to say. Some people will say you're not a cheater if you're not in a relationship, but if you're...
Takes two to tango.
But to me, I think... I always consider if you know that somebody's in a relationship and you involve yourself in that with them romantically, I still think of you as being a cheater because you know that there's a relationship that you're breaking up. But if you don't know, then that's a completely different thing, and I wouldn't blame anybody who, you know, accidentally found out that they...
Well, if we're saying that if we're saying that Ryan is possibly up for nomination here, then Damon as well, he's been the other man in the Sarah story, wasn't he? He knew that she was not even just going out, but married to Adam, and yet he still pursued her relentlessly, despite the fact that she was saying, no, I'm not interested. Now, I know the way she was saying, I'm not interested, you know, could have been misinterpreted. But I suppose, you know, we've learnt about consent in the past year, so she was saying no, and yet Damon wouldn't let her go. But yeah, he wasn't cheating on anyone, but he couldn't keep it in his pants. Who, out of the two of those, and there are other nominees, would you prefer to see it go to? Lisa, yeah. She suggested Damon, didn't she?
Donated him. No.
She donated him to our nominations list.
Who's worse out of those two? Out of who?
Damon and Ryan. I'd like to say Damon, just because Dirty Dog carries with it the kind of not very nice, sleazy, and Ryan
just seems confused.
He is confused and misguided, and he is a goodie, I suppose. Yeah. Whereas Damon,
and it's just a bit sad, isn't it? And you feel like, sorry, Daisy, just give him a kiss.
Anyone you think that deserves it over him though? Aaron, maybe.
What did he do?
Raped Amy.
I know, but that's not. This isn't the. This is supposed to be humorous. Stop bringing.
But he couldn't keep it in his pants.
No, I don't.
She was saying no.
I don't think. No, I don't think it's appropriate at all. This is like, no. Okay. It's like bringing a machete to a water fight, isn't it? It's not appropriate. You're just up in the ante.
Well, would you say the same for there's like Mike at the beginning of the year, who we found out had been having an affair. Not only had he had an affair from what was his lady called?
Penelope.
No, I don't think so.
Gina.
He'd been having it off with somebody in the past and had fathered a daughter.
Yeah.
He had a secret daughter. Ruth, was it? Mike and Ruth?
Maybe.
It was too long ago. So 12 months ago now. So he had been a dirty dog and been hiding it from his wife all that time.
Yeah, but everyone's been a dirty dog in this show. You can't convict him for past
We
crimes.
didn't see him dirtying or dogging, did we?
He perved up Summer though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did perv up Summer. We were thinking that maybe it was going to go more down that route, but the story was brought to somewhat of an abrupt halt before.
I think
we were
perving
expecting.
is different from dirty dogging.
Okay. Rufus, he was seeing call girls when he was married to
dirty dog.
to Mrs. Rufus,
Yeah, that's
Mrs.
bad.
Donahue.
That's very bad.
Lou.
Naughty.
We didn't really see that. There was a bit of a thing made from it when Stephen was using it to blackmail him when he found out about.
And how much do we
his,
really care?
nighttime callers. Yeah.
I think a dirty dog to me in Corrie is more like, oh, I can't believe it. And also you got to know both the both people in the relationship, so you can say, oh, poor Mrs. Rufus. I don't care.
So would you say that?
I know she was in it briefly.
Would you say that for the part he played in splitting up Corrie's best marriage, the favourite couple, Sarah and Adam, who everybody always remembered were married and never actually forgot that, did they? Does Damon deserve to take home the Dirty Dog Award?
What about Daniel? What did he do?
Daniel?
You've written him down.
I have written him down.
I don't remember. He's done so many things, it's hard to remember what he's done.
He bonked Bethany on New Year's Eve, didn't he? He wasn't cheating on anybody. But, hello, friend that I haven't seen for 3 or 4 years. Anyway, up to the bedroom with you.
Do you know what, though? In that situation...
What? Anyone would have done it.
No, I'm just thinking, I don't know whether Bethany was worse. Like,
she took advantage of him in
rubbing Daisy's nose in it loads and, like, flaunting herself in her towel.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Why would you answer the door with a towel on?
She didn't. Some
I can't remember what happened.
Some people are very confident in their bodies.
Maybe she was writing a piece for Cosmopolitan about freeing yourself of Christian shame.
All of the other flaunting and bitching and cattiness that we had between her and Daisy didn't technically take place in 2023.
No,
did
it didn't count.
So even if Bethany were up for consideration here, I don't think she would really count. But yeah, Daniel, just the fact that he took her straight to bed, but I'm going to put that more on the script writers of having some kind of explosive bang for for New Year's Eve than really on Daniel. I'm thinking that Damon is probably the dirtiest of them all.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, he's a villain.
Yeah, and he's not afraid to get his hands dirty, is he, with his villainous past. So okay, so we got Margie Mayer was Lauren, Dirty Dog Damon.
What a great couple they'd make.
Okay, next up we have got the Give Over Award, and this is where we kind of look at things that happen. So there's not characters, this is things that happened on Coronation Street that when we were watching it we go, oh come on, you expect really?
Yeah.
That's not very realistic, and there is a level of suspension of disbelief, of course, with any drama, soap in particular, but these are the ones where we go, come on, and we're not gonna... wouldn't happen.
I mean, there are so many things. It's like become a stereotype where people overhearing stuff, people saying, "No, let me tell you before you tell me."
Yeah, I think those are just we accept them, don't we? As annoying as they are, some people who happen to be coincidentally there to overhear things is just something we have to put up with and accept now.
Like the fact that Tim was there at the canal when Stephen was.
Oh, I don't.
Well, it's a soap coincidence, isn't it? That just
but. Oh, I think that really, really wound me up.
But it wasn't just that. There were other things like the phone ringtone. It felt like they built lots of things into those two where it was inevitable that there was going to be a showdown.
A scene that was so key in the beginning of the end for Stephen, the moment where Tim finally realises, hang on a minute, there's something dodgy going on at that hotel. The fact that it just really came out of nowhere at the end of an episode. He'd been with with Jenny in the Rovers, sneaks out, and Tim just... The usual coincidental overhearings, at least, you might expect them to be in that house or that street perhaps. But this was, Tim just happened to be by this canal in the back end of nowhere in Weatherfield. And of course his phone just happened to go off. That really, really irked me actually. And I think that, despite what I said earlier, that for me was quite a strong contender.
Well, there's other things that are necessary artefacts of the fact it's a soap. Like the fact that Michelle never visited Ryan because they couldn't get...
Yeah, no,
her back.
that's worth a mention, but I don't think it's the biggest give over here because we understand why that happened.
Or the fact that Cassie was actually still alive, even though Evelyn told everybody that she was dead. That is just a soapy retcon.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that really irked me by how much I was like, oh, go on, give over.
Like it made me indignant.
Yeah, I think that one of them happened quite earlier in the year when Joseph gets sent home from school for using British Sign Language in his class because apparently his teacher thought that he was making rude gestures. That really got my goat. And in fact, I'd quite like to tie that in with a whole protest that went on afterwards, where it Bernie and Evelyn locked themselves in the classroom and the teacher couldn't get in,
and then they were left. In.
Oh yeah, that's right. The teacher locked them in,
well,
and
if
then
you're going to sit there, then you can.
And didn't she leave them there overnight?
Yeah.
That was
odd.
You know, I do like. I don't.
Yasmin involved in that, or am I?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't like how teachers are often portrayed in schools anyway, and that was a primary school teacher, which is what I
Corrie.
In Coronation Street, yeah, of course.
You don't like how teachers are portrayed in schools.
It's just generally. No, in Coronation Street, but that for me was like, oh come on,
it's
there's
baffling.
no way
Baffling.
a child who is known to have deaf siblings would be sent home without seemingly any form of school-based trial for making a gesture. Even if it had been a rude gesture, an intentional rude gesture, I don't think he would have been sent home.
Yeah, I know, but then it wouldn't have been the BSO. It would have been the fact he did a rude gesture.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not remembering this incorrectly. They did actually say it was because he was doing sign language. Because there's a difference between a child using sign language and a child maliciously communicating in a disruptive manner. And that the latter is a bit more, serious, but the former is like, what, you can't send a kid home for speaking a different language or using a different...
I don't remember the exact details, but whichever way,
it was
that
silly.
really got my back
and it
up.
Undermines, again, it's one of those things that undermines schools and makes teachers look stupid.
Yeah, and the teacher locking them in. Yes, wasn't it funny? What if a character's got locked in the school overnight? But no, that really was a give-over moment.
The thing is about it kind of irks me is that I feel as though Coronation Street is a very liberal... kind of, of course it is. It's a very liberal soap. It's to me it should be supporting teachers. Not it's not their job to make everyone like propaganda for teachers. But as far as I think liberal people tend to value and understand education and understand the challenges, especially as under now this government just underfunding everything. You'd think when it's in such a terrible state that they would try to at least do no harm to the profession.
Tell you what,
which is such a bloody... What?
I think those scenes on Coronation Street at the beginning of the year with the final straw, and it was what made us go on strike.
Went on strike, yeah. But you see what I mean? I'm not like I don't think that anyone's got a responsibility to teaching like Coronation Street doesn't. But think about, for example, how they treat doctors. They had this really horrible villainous doctor, the surgeon, Mr. Thorne, but they've also got Dr. Gaddis, and they balance it out. They've never balanced teachers out.
I mean, Crawshaw's not too bad.
Yeah, but she's just not bad. She's not good though, is she? She I mean, you can add this to the list of Bobbins stuff. The fact that she investigated the bullying incident that happened right in front of her by asking everybody what happened and demanding that they tell her individually, and then taking somebody else's word for what happened that wasn't even being questioned about it, and then just saying, okay, well, if you say Mason...
2024,
Gemma. She knows Mason...
Hold back till next
year. She knows that Mason's a wrong-un, and she's like, okay, whatever you say, right, you're in detention then.
We've got a couple of listener suggestions that I think is worth discussing. So Jack suggested Craig's secondment to CID.
Yeah, that was baffling, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think that's a bit like kicking a puppy, isn't it? It's like
Let's not be too mean.
Let's not be too mean. I think, Craig is supposed to be an effective police officer, but I don't think for most viewers that was the best of moves. I don't really get why it happened. I suppose it was so that he could be investigating the Stephen at some points. But I guess that, you know, anyone can have a shot at CID, and at least I suppose the biggest give over of them all would have been if they'd have decided to keep him on as a detective, and the fact that they didn't means that I think he's narrowly avoided getting the give over award there. And we also had Lisa suggesting the whole Jenny and Daisy stealing Stephen's money, and I'd like to tie that in with she said the scene where Audrey is really protective of this diary of Stephen's, and then she decides to throw it away right in front of Daisy, despite knowing that Daisy wanted it.
Yeah,
and then
odd.
I'd also add on to that Daisy managing to guess Stephen's password by finding a postcard with the name of the place on. That whole little sequence there was very convenient for them being able to take the Rovers by New Year's Eve.
I've got dozens of postcards, none of which contain any kind of password information.
So that's a bad one for me.
It really wound me up when Elena recognised Gabrielle from a split second of Stephen talking to her on the laptop and slamming it down. How does she?
And she just had a little look at the photo, a family photo.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's the same." How? No way.
That didn't wind me up so much as some of the others. I was like, oh, okay, fine. That's one of those like, well, you know, that's got to happen for the story to progress. It didn't irk me quite so much. Same with things like Leo's hand going green when he was dug off. That's just kind of funny. It's ridiculous. I've not seen very many, some might say if any, bodies in a state of decay that Leo was supposedly being after nearly 10 months was it underground. I don't believe that they would look quite that shade of green, but I think, you know, that made us laugh more, and it's like, oh, whatever, that's kind of, here's Leo's hand. I don't think that deserves actually winning. I mean, something along the Stephen storyline that may be worth a shout out. I don't think it'll get the award, but the fact that Nipper Snapper was so successful, despite being somewhat of a pants idea, and that was a long story. That was a whole lot, many months of give over.
And such an easy idea to steal as well. Why would anyone give you money for that idea?
Making a jumper with a slogan, and then a child's jumper with a kind of identical or corresponding slogan.
I just steal your idea. You don't own the copyright for this idea.
Yeah, I feel that the
phrases were all like common phrases.
That one kind of goes in there with Craig's comment to CID for me, that it didn't make me go, what, how ridiculous, but more like, oh, come on, really? Oh, right. Okay, then, if it serves the purpose of the plot. I mean, I suppose if it was easy enough to come up with internationally successful branding ideas for clothes,
I know,
then everyone will be doing it, and you wouldn't be a scriptwriter on Coronation Street if that tickled your fancy. So I'd like to give that one a shout out, but by no means do I think that should get the nomination.
What about when Spider went, oh, I've got a bulletproof vest on?
Oh yeah. Yeah, now Maggie has already got an award this evening, but that particular moment, we were just watching that whole episode of Spider and Toy go, oh, what is this? But the fact that they had a moment where they could have rescued it by having the gunshot and something quite exciting happened, but then the camera cuts back to Spider's like, I'm alright, really? I've got a bulletproof vest on. I was like, oh, dear me.
Yeah, I think I remember at the time being a bit baffled as to why and how he was wearing it and why he thought to put it on. But hey, it's water under the bridge.
He's very safety conscious. That's all I'm going to say.
We haven't even mentioned the one I want to win.
What?
Yeah, which is the whole thing with Peter leaving.
Yeah.
That was like almost offensively bad as to how preposterous the whole thing was. They tried to make it, you know, he was unhappy with his life, and
he killed someone.
Looking at Hayes
travel adverts, and they're very persuasive because
really
they have some fantastic deals on travel.
But
all
just
around
the idea
world.
that Carla's like, oh, you should go away and like, because your alcoholism, I'm worried about you. Like, go on a boat with a bunch of blokes with nothing to do all night long and nowhere to be, and you won't be tempted to start becoming an alcoholic. What are you talking about?
This was a relationship that we were led to believe was pretty solid, and actually, compared to some of the flimsier marriages, like Gary and Maria, Adam and Sarah, who I don't think there's loads of people clamouring to say, oh, they're my favourite married couple on Corrie at the moment. There were actually an awful lot of Carla and Peter supporters for good reason. They had great chemistry together. Chris and Ali worked fantastically in scenes. And the idea that he would just say, I think I want to go, she's like, go on then. And yes, they had a bit of a fallout for it, but it was over far too quickly on Boxing Day episode.
Yes, and then all that nonsense about don't contact me because
yeah,
I'll change my mind.
Ties.
About what, though? About what? I don't get it. Why couldn't you stay together and be like, oh, Peter sent me a postcard. Don't look at it, though. It's my password.
I don't think that one bothers me as really much as some of the others because I'm thinking, look, Chris Gascoigne had to leave.
Yes.
This is they weren't going to do the same as they did for Hayley and Roy, where they had to kill off Hayley because she certainly wouldn't leave. They could have killed. They could have killed off Peter with Stephen. They could have sent him to jail, but I think they kind of want to hang on to the possibility that Chris is going to come back again. But that was to me, that was a necessity of the actor deciding that he wanted to move on. Whereas some of the things that proper got my goat, like Joseph being sent home from school, the I suppose the bulletproof vest, the whole guessing password with Daisy. There could probably have been a better way for that to have happened, and they didn't need to go down the story. They made a conscious choice to have that happen to Joseph. They didn't really need to. No,
I'm not going to sway from this because they could have written it in many different ways. They decided to break them up in the span of an episode, no, I'm not going to back down. It was the worst. It was the silliest storyline of the year.
We've sometimes had ties for these before.
It's really bad to treat such legacy characters in that way, and they've got a big fan base. Carla and Peter do. I would be furious if I was.
Okay, look, I'll give it to Peter's exit award if you like, as long as you agree that if we get into the situation later on in the show, you might throw me a bone and let me have my pick. But right. I'm certainly going to give Joseph's sign language exclusion a big shout out and an honourable mention.
You can't even get kids kicked out of school for like smacking teachers around these days, let alone doing sign language.
Okay. Can do something. So this is probably one of our most positive of the Bobbins Awards, isn't it? This is where we take a look at just the characters we want to see more of, because it felt like they were sitting on their bums all year, not really doing anything. And it's like come on, let's hope you have a story this year. Get your arse in gear.
We want you to do
character.
Yeah.
This isn't all. Sometimes it's the actors who don't want to, maybe want to have a quiet year. Sometimes it's the fact that they're just, the Ian McLeod or whoever isn't inspired to give them. There's many reasons why characters don't have as high an episode count as some of those main ones. But
we would hope that this is not down to any kind of unpleasant reason that we don't know about.
No, but it doesn't matter. What we're not doing in this award is saying this is rubbish that they weren't in it this year. This is more we want them to do something. Is there anybody particular that you'd like to see? Apart, Toya's obviously going to go there. You're always going to go for our Toya.
Stop me from saying Toya.
Can read your mind.
Toya and Abby. More of them too.
I think, I can't remember who won this last year.
Maybe a bit more Shona.
Yeah. I mean, Shona, Julia Goulding had a baby this year, didn't she? She had world's shortest maternity leave for 6 weeks, I think it was. But I really... yes, I'd obviously love to see more Toya. Yes, I'd love to see more Abby. I was expecting to probably see a bit more of Abby this year than we got. It feels like it's been a very long time since she's had a big meaty story to get her teeth into. It's been, a year and a half at least. And as one of Corrie's premiere top best actresses, it's clear, isn't it, everybody? I was quite surprised that she didn't have very much to do at all in 2023. So yes, obviously I'd like to see more of her. Shona, I'm still waiting for her to get her big break of a story. And I think that Julia Goulding is absolutely fantastic. And I'd rather, in a way, wish an epic story on her than Abby and Toya, who have at least had epic stories in the fairly recent past, you know.
Yeah.
With the whole, they had the love triangle thing with Imran Shona. I couldn't tell you when the last time she had her big soap magazine cover story. I mean, they're not the only ones. They're ones that are personal to us. I'd like to see more of David. And listener Lisa said the same thing. He's been criminally underused in recent years, considering he used to be, in the early days of the podcast, the big name, the main male character of the show. Jack P. Shepherd, again, clearly one of the most talented cast members in terms of actors. He can do so much, and they're basically just kind of sidelining him to somebody who makes snarky remarks. In the last couple of years, they gave him a few touching scenes with Max, like when Max refused to come out of prison. But I'd like to this year to be a return to a big David story. I mean, they've not even really used him very much in Paul's exit, have they? They remember every couple of months. Oh yeah, they used to be friends, but then they're not even shoved him in there.
I want to see more Debbie.
Yes.
Love her.
She's always one that's never quite got there.
She's not got a story.
No, and I think...
Well, I mean, she had the...
She was involved with the insider trading. I've been, quite surprised how much we've seen of Ronnie in the second half of this year, thanks to the Ed story, which I can't believe we haven't mentioned it yet. But yeah, Debbie is one who feels to me like could absolutely handle a big A-level story, but I don't... A-tier story, should I say, but she's never been given the chance. And maybe it's just a case of, maybe Sue Devaney doesn't want that, or Coronation Street doesn't seem to be rushing towards putting the characters or the actors of her age at the forefront of the big stories. They're really pushing the youth at the moment, aren't they? But Debbie, absolutely, I'd go for.
Debbie!
I'd like to see... Maybe Eileen. I don't need to see her be in the big story, but she was only in 39 episodes in 2023, and I'd like to see a bit more of a renaissance for her. I don't know what it'd look like. I kind of like her and George together, but that whole family unit at number 11, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a family. It feels like a place where sometimes story-related scenes happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Unlike number 9, with Tyrone and the girls and Evelyn and Cassie, which feels like much more like a family unit. I mean, Tracy, I would say, if it weren't for the fact that it's clearly building up to something with her and Tommy Orpington. Lisa has suggested Gail. Would you be interested in seeing like one more shot for a big story for Gail?
No.
Or are we past that now?
I can't imagine what they'd give her. I think it would just be plot related, and it would just be, oh, my kids are rubbish. We've seen that story so many times, Gail and Audrey being betrayed by their children and grandchildren. It can't.
The character's been turned into so much of a joke now. I literally can't imagine how a serious story for Gail would work. We had Audrey back with a bit more of a story this year, didn't we? Because of Stephen, and over the past few years we've had more of her dementia, and then there was obviously the suicide attempt a few years ago. But I can't see.
Yeah, why they
I can't see how a serious Gail story would work, other than she's got a horrible disease, and I don't really fancy watching that, to be honest.
I mean, we never talked about it in the storyline thing, but the fact that how quickly Audrey got over Stephen being killed by Peter, when everyone was like, basically they just told her to pull her socks up and she went okay then, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was a bit silly.
Yeah, you're right. She did change her mind somewhat easily, didn't she?
Todd, Rebecca
suggested Todd. I wouldn't say that this was a really quiet year for Todd. Obviously, the two gay dads of Billy and Paul have been the heavier focus, but Todd's had his part to play in that. Plus, he got his story with George and the Rest Easy, which that was a fairly. I think there'll be more to say about the Rest Easy story later, but I wouldn't say that Todd has been underused so much that he should be taking home this Can Do Something award today. Personal feelings aside, as difficult as it can be, I just don't think that genuinely there is anybody that I'd like to see more have a story this year than Toya Shona and Abby. And my vote would probably go, honestly, to Shona, only because it feels like it's been so long since she's had a big one. And I think we probably will get something with Abby. I'm not sure about Toya. I really, really don't know. I think that character has been really cast adrift since Imran died, since Spider left. I don't know what a big story for Toya would look like, because who are her links on the street other than Leanne?
To Toya, but it was nothing nice.
But I'd like to have the Platts. I want a more of a Platt-centric story. If Shona could be the catalyst for that, or the character around which the Platts get their thrown back into the spotlight again, then all for the better. As long as it doesn't involve.
Clayton.
This is my no. Yeah, you're right. I don't need to see Clayton. When's he supposed to be out again? I don't know. As long as it doesn't involve Shona and David splitting up.
Oh yeah, no.
If putting Shona at the forefront of Coronation Street in 2024 means that she and him have anything even resembling a marriage wobble, sorry, I don't want to know.
We don't want to know.
But would you be happy for Shona to take this one?
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. The build-up to Nout Award. I love that. Another story one, a bit like our Give Over Award. But this is the award for stories that didn't fulfil their potential, shall we say? Is that the nicest way to put it? Stories where we felt that something bigger than actually happened would happen.
Yeah. Stories that went nowhere.
Stories that went nowhere, or at least didn't go as far as we were expecting them to.
Yeah, I mean, some of this is on us, isn't it? And
it's not our fault if Corrie likes to raise our expectations by promoting their show so well.
Well, this is also like the fans built this up to something that it wasn't.
In some places, yes, it is. In other places, I'm sorry, the story just drops off a cliff and it feels like they're hoping that we forgot it ever happened.
Yeah.
We don't. No,
when I say fans, I mean us.
I do often forget things, actually. I'm getting terrible about that. I think that
I know.
I think probably one of the biggest ones, really, and this probably is us building it up, is that trading sequence of Peter's at the beginning of the year. We had our heart set on this bargee to bike story lasting 12 months. And we really were. It was an easy win. And what happened with the bike in the end? Paul was on it, and then Carla could have still hit Paul walking across the road. He didn't need to be sitting on a motorbike for that to happen.
No, of course not.
It just made so much sense to me to have throughout the year just seeing Peter trading up to it. But in the end, what happened? I can't even remember what he traded for the bike in the end, but it was some minuscule thing he manages to get because the woman's hacked off at her husband cheating on her.
That's that doesn't feel like, that feels like a loophole.
Yeah.
Also, it could have ended with him swapping his bike for like a ticket. To bugger
or he
off.
could have just rode his bike off into the distance. I mean, it writes itself, doesn't it? It really writes itself.
They must have known at this stage of the year that Peter was going to leave.
Oh, I would have thought so. But I don't know whether this is one that sticks out for me, but I don't know whether we can give it to it just because Corrie didn't really build it up.
No,
they had a really smart idea for what could have been a great story, but they never said this is going to be a big Peter story.
I mean, it was fine for what happened, wasn't it? It could have
something for me that was made out to be big, and then it just went was the Rovers. The Rovers selling story.
I don't know if you can write this one off yet, because I think there's more to come.
Oh, there is more to come, but the whole fact that, the Rovers is financially struggling, we can't keep it, we can't afford to keep it, we're going to have to rely on Henry to bail us out, and then, now the Rovers is closed, it's been boarded off, it's going to be redone by Waterfords, now it's going to be turned into flats, and then just turn into, We'll just have Jenny and Daisy buy it with some ill-gotten gains and then put it pretty much back to normal. And while it was closed, what difference did it make? Nobody was going, I missed the road. Not very much. And sometimes they've paid lip service to it. But it didn't seem to have a huge effect on the community at all. All the people that lost their jobs, they were fine. It was literally just a couple of months where they didn't have to bother thinking about showing Rovers scenes.
Yeah, but it does not reset though, has it? Because now Jenny and Daisy are there, but they're in peril. We know that they're going to get caught out.
peril
Some
as in
way.
because of the way that they've got their money.
Yeah.
I really hope so. They'd better do. I mean, they're not alluding to that yet. There's no snifter of the fact that they're going to get caught, but surely Soap Justice will catch up with them. And again, surely there's going to be some fallout between Jenny and Daisy now that Daisy's got more of a financial stake in it. But I don't know that. I think the size of the Rovers return being sold just for it to turn into no, it's not much at the end, to me makes it a fairly strong contender. Is there anything else that you would suggest?
I think it's kind of funny the way that Mason just hit Eliza with a car and no one cares.
Not necessarily a build-up. It just kind of happened, and then it was a few weeks later that we saw him discussing with his fellow teens, oh, that was me that hit that girl. But that,
is he ever going to be held accountable for his crimes against humanity?
That was an odd one to drop in, and it feels like it will be resolved at some point, which is why I'm not sure it's the best for this build-up to now. But it was an odd thing to just drop in there and then seemingly forget about.
When we had like the Friends reunion, the Friends for the 21st century, where we had Amy, Aaron, Summer and Jacob all in as flatmates, and we're like, oh, and they were putting it on social media like, oh, look at us all together, and it did really feel like they were onto something with that.
That was kind of built up towards the tail end of 2022, I think. But going into 23, we were thinking, oh, yeah, this is the new guys, the new friends. They're together in Toya and Imran's old flat. This is going to be the new student hub, if you like, of Coronation Street.
That could have been really good. And obviously it wasn't really a build up to now because it set up what happened to Amy and
Amy and Aaron.
That I don't think that could have happened without that situation. But then they just went, oh, should we just not do it then? Should we all just move out?
Jacob was gone within 5-6 weeks of last year, and then just as the couple of months went on, you had various reasons for characters not being able to stay there anymore. Like, didn't Summer go back to Billy? I can't remember whether it was because of Paul or whether it was because she couldn't afford it, but they certainly built that up a bit, like Dee Dee and Alia being new, I don't know, ace detectives or whatever.
Crime fighting lawyer.
Team extraordinaire. That nothing happened there, and they made a big thing of this. That was a fairly missed opportunity. Not huge. I don't know whether that should get there or not. I think that something that was a term that kept on being referred to for months on end, and literally nothing has come out of it. Late license. Need I say more?
Oh yeah, that was what happened with that?
It felt like the story was, will they get a late license? Oh, we need Damon to help us. And I get that...
He was super into it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I get that they needed to suggest, is Damon dodgy? Has he changed? Can he be relied on? Do we want him to have a finger in the bistro pie? We need there to be something that he's helpful for. But I would have preferred that the thing that he was responsible for bringing about in the bistro had any impact whatsoever.
Yeah, and everyone was like, oh no, don't have a late licence, it's going to ruin the street.
Oh, it did, didn't it? Yeah, like Gail wasn't happy about it.
I can't be having this. Oh, it's terrible. And then they've done it. I suppose that's for like real life though. Like, there's always something that somebody's frothing at the mouth about in the Echo or something.
And it's actually fine.
And it's like, yeah.
I think maybe the story wasn't it Sarah was trying to somebody was trying to fight against it. I don't remember. But that was a bit of a flub, wasn't it? So was the scaffolding, obviously. Feels like so long ago now.
The scaffolding, I think, is a very strong contender because we were like, oh, why have they left the scaffolding on? There's going to be some reason. They had an idea, and then they haven't been able to do it.
I think that...
I really genuinely think there was something planned for that.
I think there was absolutely something... There had to have been something planned.
Because Simon Gregson hurt his foot, didn't he? Around that time.
He hurt his foot.
And he couldn't
There was big fallouts with the Barlows and Ed and Aggie, and then one day it was just taken down. Nothing came of it. I haven't listened back to last year's Bobbins Awards. It's quite possible we gave the scaffolding the Bobbins Award for build up to now last year, but maybe we would have said, well, at least something will happen in 2023. There was literally nothing. My amazing, even if I do say so myself, idea of getting Stephen to scale the scaffolding to climb into Teddy's bedroom at the Rovers. absolutely nothing came of that. It's a little bit like the Ring doorbell that the McDonald's have got.
Yeah.
Nothing has been made of that so far. Nobody's been secretly spied upon.
They used it for something. Like, it wasn't very...
No, there wasn't very much. Listener Jack has suggested Beth and Kirk's split as being a bit of a build-up to Out and a Bobbins story, and I wouldn't say no to that. The problem with that is, like, I don't really care if they're together, don't really care if they're apart.
Bobbins, though, isn't it? That's why you should get the award, because it's like, okay, but what? I don't care.
So what, did Kirk split up with Beth because
About
she slapped Hope?
And lied about it.
I get that he'd be, miffed off at her about that, but maybe a clean split was a bit out of character. But then going from that to, did it have any impact on them? Not really. He just slept on Tyrone's sofa for a bit, and then they were back together again a few months later. I don't know what the out could have been. We're saying it was an out. What would the out have been? I don't know, because they're not big characters. But that felt like it was something that could have been more, even if, because I don't really like the characters, I probably wouldn't have wanted to see what it had been building up to,
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell you one thing, Darian.
Darian. Yeah, and his brother. Yeah, I said that that was a lock-in. That was guaranteed a bit of emotional manipulation and pulling on the old heartstrings that we'd see in 2023, Darian being reunited with his brother. But what did we get?
We didn't get... He went to Nottingham.
He's somewhere else. He's in Nottingham, that's right.
Your princess is in another castle.
Yeah, basically. And then...
He left.
Yeah. He was a necessary victim, I suppose, in Max's becoming a racist, a white supremacist.
White supremacist?
White supremacist, sorry. But he was actually a nice character, and I think he was...
We didn't get any closure for that storyline.
No.
I don't understand...
Apart from, don't worry, you probably meet your brother. Good luck.
We still don't know, did he meet his brother? It would have been nice to have been told. Maybe we did get told and we missed it. But, I mean, how hard would it have been to have hired somebody to be his brother?
Yeah,
and come in and go, Darian!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! You're alive and you're fine.
They just didn't want to invest in that character.
It would be like, those like videos where they have the sad puppies? Like, I found a sad puppy on the side of the road and it needed rescuing, but we couldn't stop because we had to go to McDonald's.
I suppose, an equivalent that they had with the puppies recently is we didn't see them go to a lovely forever home.
I think they all just got drowned in the bag.
We just assumed that Cassie, she shit them off and they're okay.
There are PCA ladies like, we haven't got any room for these.
I'd also like to, into the ring, throw the hat of Brian and Mary's romance that was teased a few points on and off through the year. I think that even in like the Ian McLeod previews of 23, he might have mentioned, watch out for Brian and Mary, we're going to have a bit of a romance going there. Yeah. But it was nothing. They had the Roxana review, I can't remember whether that was the end of 22 or early 23, the play that Mary was in, that Brian had written a bad review of. I think it was this year that she found out that it had been him that wrote it. I might be completely wrong, I don't know. But then the whole point of the Isabella storyline, to me, felt like it was a way of getting them together. And
Make them realise they have feelings.
Well, when they got rid of Isabella, it was Mary saying, oh, well, you can't stay here anymore, Isabella, because Brian and I, we're in love and we're inseparable. And Brian, you could see he was like, yeah, I really do love you. But Mary clearly doesn't feel that. But the next stage, logically, in a plot, is for her to realise her true feelings, or at least for him to accept the fact that she doesn't feel the same way about him. But there's been nothing. I suppose the thing that would be stopping me from giving this one the award is I'm not really interested in Brian and Mary getting together. There's possible potential, but I don't want to take the risk because it could also go terribly wrong, because I don't really enjoy watching Mary, and even Brian sometimes isn't one of my favourite characters. What else was there? Little Big Shots. Is that a build-up to Nout?
We got that terrible performance, didn't we?
We got the terrible performance at the Christmas thing with Paul recently, watching on in his wheelchair. We got there was a performance in the summer. You remember the episode when Cassie came back and she was there skulking around at the back, and then she told Tyrone at the end of it, I'm your mum. But giving Glenda this business, saying that, let's train up the stars of tomorrow on the street for the odd scene here and there. It felt like going into 23 saying, what should we do with Joji Prenger? What story should we give her? She can sing. Should we? Yeah, let's give her this. And there's a bit, again, what do I want to see come out of this? I don't really know. A story for Glenda, maybe.
There was such a big insinuation when she took this job on that it was some kind of scam. Because that her friend was a bit weird. Yeah.
And yeah, she was, who was it that played the friend? I don't remember what her name.
A big...
famous musical lady who played
West End star.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, oh, it's a big deal, there's a big deal.
You're right, it did feel like it was a scam, and everything is kind of okay now. I don't think the numbers are great, and it does seem like probably about 75% of the members of Little Big Shots are made up of children of her neighbours, so maybe they're just putting their kids into the group to be nice to their local barmaid, but I don't know what I wanted that storyline to be, apart from something for Glenda to do, because we're still waiting for her to have a big dramatic story, if she's indeed going to get one.
Yep.
Anything else?
Ryan being on steroids, what was that? I mean...
Yeah. He got angry a couple of times.
Daniel saw the box with the syringes in, and that kind of led him to have a lot of contempt for Ryan. But he never did. He call him a junkie at any point or say anything about? I can't remember.
Yeah, he did. He stopped Ryan from getting that job, didn't he, at the gym?
Yes, yeah. Is that the reason why Ryan was on steroids?
The problem with, one of the problems with the aftermath of the acid attack story is they were just throwing too much in, weren't they? Is it about catfishing? Is it about steroids? Is it about the
acid
affair?
Attacks.
Is it even about acid attacks?
No, it's not.
Perish the thought. And that was one of the many little prongs that this story had that could have had more go to it, but it didn't. Speaking of little prongs, I'm going to say the tie pin in the pool. Stephen's tie pin, when that fell in the water after drowning Rufus, I was convinced that was going to be the key piece of evidence that took him down. And I think somebody pointed it out to us that he wasn't wearing the tie pin afterwards, or somebody had put it online. But yeah, I was convinced that this was going to be the key piece of evidence. But what happened in the end? It caused a little bit of drama for about 2 episodes. He sneaks into Lou's hotel room, gets it back, sticks it down the drain, doesn't get washed up again.
She suspects him quite strongly, but it doesn't. Yeah,
that was a kind of a personal one for me, a bit like the scaffolding, just because there were lots of ideas that I had that could have gone somewhere but didn't.
But it reminded me a little bit of what happened with Pat Phelan and that bit of jewellery in the office.
Yeah, it is very much.
Well, it's not a crime. It's not a crime story, is it?
Phelan with the jewellery in the office really felt like they wanted to do something with it and then just decided, nah. The tie pin, maybe that their only plan was just to make a tiny little hiccup in Stephen's grand scheme a few months down the line.
Well, it can't all run smoothly.
No.
I think you can give that one a pass.
Rebecca and Lisa also suggested the Daisy and Ryan stalking storyline as being a bit of a build-up to now, which is fair enough, because we've just said that they didn't stick the landing as well as they might have done with that. We were really invested in the stalking, and actually the acid attack episode itself was superb. Looking at what happened after the acid attack, it wasn't a build-up to Nout, it just wasn't. It was a build-up to
something
too
else.
much, wasn't it? Which isn't Nout, it's the opposite of Nout. We've gone through so many possibilities here. I don't know whether we haven't said that there's any that are particularly stronger than the others.
About Roy? This love triangle between Roy, Yasmin, and Evelyn.
Yeah, that's true. That's another one. Roy was getting a bit,
and Stu also getting his nose put out of joint, and also Stu sending. I mean, I don't think the story is over though. Sending Matey off with the money. All of his money.
Yeah, I think there's still more to it than that.
Yeah.
I would say. Oh, I also just thought as the whole Sean and Lawrence the dentist storyline, and is he going to be a murderer? Is he going to puff somebody off a cliff? Oh no, he doesn't like the insinuation, so he's gone. I thought that we'd see Lawrence again.
Yeah, me
I thought
too.
that he had unfinished business. He just disappeared and flounced off like Jacob, and we didn't see him again. But that's not going to get the award. I'm kind of. I mean, for personal reasons, the scaffolding is quite high up there. So's Peter's trading sequence, but like I said, Corrie didn't build that up to be big.
To me, it's
the Rest Easy story. Even that was felt. Oh no, Todd and George, they're the brilliant couple at the Undertakers. Then Todd's going to work somewhere else. Oh, he's back again after a few weeks.
I don't know
where
if
we
that
don't
counts.
see them. We don't really see George.
No, you don't see him anymore.
Struggling without Todd. We didn't see any of inside the Undertakers. We got a few great scenes with Lurch, and then they were back together again, and it.
Now we're back together.
So what anything for you really?
The scaffolding is the one that is crazy to me. If you've ever had scaffolding,
I wouldn't say no to the scaffolding.
And put up for anything, any reason, you'll know they go crazy over this. They won't leave the scaffolding there very long. It costs so much money. How can anyone have afforded to have had scaffolding outside the house for 11 months for no reason? And it just really honestly felt like, okay, when they're leaving it there for a reason. They're leaving it there for a reason. It doesn't make sense otherwise. Why? There must be a reason they haven't taken it down. There must be a story purpose for it to be there. And then, nope.
The fact that it was there for so long, it wasn't a build-up per se, but they did mention it every now and then. But then for it just to be taken away with no ceremony, it was like I'm fairly convinced there must be some kind of real-world reason why that scaffolding didn't turn into a story. They would not have had that there without a reason. But sorry to say, we were still expecting something from the scaffolding that could have been quite fun and stunty, but we didn't get it. So scaffolding it is, possibly for second year in a row. You'll have to listen back to last year's episode to find out. The Weatherfield Waterworks Awards, Gemma. Another possibly sexist one.
Gendered.
Yeah, but
stereotype.
Men can be. I'd say I'd feel more comfortable nominating a man for Weatherfield Waterworks than I would for the Mardy Mare. The thing is, you just don't get a whole lot of, floods of tears from the men. You get a little bit. I mean, Billy possibly could have got it this year, but
oh no,
he's had a bit of a cry, hasn't he?
I think the thing about the Weatherfield Waterworks is that it's partly a criticism of Coronation Street's treatment of strong female characters.
Yeah, just make them cry.
Where they just, like we said, get turned into weeping victims.
Yeah.
And it's happened to so many of them. I mean, Alia almost always is in this category. Who was it? Who did it used to be? Rana.
I think that
Rana was like.
Rana's the queen of.
I think she might have been the
Waterworks.
inaugural.
Yeah, surely. And I don't think there's been anybody this year who has used up as many tissues as Rana did back in the height of the Kana storyline. No. Even Alia, to be fair to her, she's just kept herself to herself mostly. She had a bit of a cry earlier in the year, but she was stabbed, so maybe it's fair dues. I don't know whether I'd want to give it to her this year. I'm kind of leaning more towards maybe Daisy this year. I don't think there's a lot of strong contenders. You got
Lauren.
I don't think that Lauren's been that crying. She's more, we gave her the Mardy Mare for her scowl, but I don't think that she's shed as many tears.
Yeah, I don't have strong feelings about this category. I don't think it's been that bad. Maybe they've...
Sarah's had some bad times. Audrey has had some bad, her poor son was killed, but there's not been anyone who has, throughout the whole year, just not had a dry eye.
I mean, if you think about last year's summer... That was like primo candidate for Weatherfield Waterworks, but this year,
Amy, Jenny, for losing the road, there isn't a strong contender, and I think that by default it might have to be Daisy, who she's had a tough year. She's had acid thrown at her boob, and
really
she's
hurt.
Yeah, but she doesn't like to go on about it, does she?
She
Not like Ryan. But getting herself mixed up with pretending to be Crystal. Oh, I'm torn between Daniel and Ryan. Oh, I'm getting thrown out on the street by Daniel at Christmas because I just kind of was having it off with his mate Ryan.
I think the thing about the Weatherfield Waterworks is it pushes your sympathy a little bit. You start to think I don't care anymore now because you're just crying all the time.
That's it. You're crying too much. You had me and now you lost me.
Yeah, I think Daisy's the one who comes closest because a lot of the stuff she is crying about is their own fault.
Yeah, basically. Sure, well, let's just quickly move on from that. Daisy. You won an award, Daisy. You've had quite a few recently. This isn't the best one, but we don't feel too bad about you. You only just got it because of lack of other candidates. What we got next?
No one can ever know.
No, we need to tell them, otherwise how will they know what we're talking about?
No one can ever know.
Oh, it's the no one can ever know.
You really confused me there.
I know, I didn't even mean to do that.
On?
Just, so this is the No One Can Ever Know Awards. This
Pointlessly
is
kept secrets.
Pointless secrets. You know, soaps wouldn't be soaps without a secret. But some of them, yeah, it's like, why are you keeping quiet about this for so long? This is another one which, although I've got a fair few nomination ideas in my head, I'm not feeling as strongly about there's got to be a clear winner here. So maybe as we move on through our discussion, more feelings will be stirred.
Well, the one that to me is the biggest one is all of the Gaskells. Harvey, Damon, what's her face, what the other guy.
Yeah.
What are their names?
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. There's Harvey.
Sharon.
Yeah.
And the boy, Jacob.
Yeah.
Why are they all related?
That's not a 2023.
I know, but
no one can ever know.
Yeah, it is though.
I suppose
it was all artificial, and it just in it so that you could be like, what?
I can't remember when it was revealed that Harvey was Sharon's. I've got a feeling it was. It must have been before. It was years ago. But
But
it was the fact that Nick found out this year and he wasn't telling Leanne about it.
Yeah, Damon is Harvey's brother.
Yeah, because he wanted him to be part of. He didn't want Leanne. He wanted Damon's. I'm trying to remember. I wasn't particularly inspired. He wanted his input into the bistro, and he knew that Leanne wouldn't like it.
Because she doesn't like drug dealers.
You don't keep secrets from Leanne, Nick. You know what she's
so
like. Mad. That was a silly thing to do. I get why he was doing it, but it was clear for us as a viewer that he would pay for that insubordination, and pay he did, because he ended up getting kicked out of the family home for a few months. So yeah, that was a bit of a silly secret. What else was there?
When Paul wouldn't tell anyone about his MND for ages.
Yes,
I can sympathise with him to a certain extent, but the fact that Dee Dee knew, and it kind of put her in an awkward position.
Corrie does have a thing about people being diagnosed with horrible conditions and then being very stoic and not wanting to let anyone else feel sad about it. Because we had the same with Roy, didn't we, this year when he had his heart problems and he was there kind of clutching his chest in the bistro, but he wouldn't tell Nina about it. It didn't really come into much in the end.
This is why men don't live as long as women.
Because we just don't like to tell people about our problems.
Yeah.
It's like Tim with his heart condition a couple of years ago as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
What about Stephen and Elaine's secret engagement? Was that a silly secret? I guess it made sense for Stephen because he didn't want to give away that he'd accidentally become engaged to be married to this woman that he kind of despises.
Why was Elaine so happy to go along with it? Because she's dumb.
Yeah. Secret fling from Ardy and Courtney. That was a secret, wasn't it?
I know, but you could see why they keep that secret.
Yeah. Same with Beth keeping quiet about Faye in the hotel. Do you remember the scene where Faye was in the hotel with Jackson and she sees Beth with Marco and they're both we're both. I can't remember what the word is now, but I've got to keep your secret. You've got to keep my secret, or else our family's going to explode. That kind of way. There was one that didn't really make sense to me earlier on in the year, but it wasn't very long. It was when George agreed to secretly fund Glenda's little big shots, and again he tried to keep it from Eileen. Clearly Eileen would find out about it, and then when she did, she was mad, but it didn't really blow into too much. I don't know. I'm not.
There's not a real like.
Maybe Max when he was secretly feeding Lauren, and because he was hiding her in the salon, wasn't he? That went on for a while. We didn't see lots of scenes.
Was she grateful? No.
But he didn't tell Sabrina because he knew that Sabrina didn't like her. That was a bit of a silly secret. I'm not as inspired about this one. Dee
Dee knowing that Sarah and Damon were having an affair, and Adam's her boss. And she was all like...
Dee Dee's had a few secrets to keep this past year, hasn't she? There was that. There was Paul. Did she know about Ed's gambling? I can't remember. I've lost track of who knew what about what.
No, she didn't.
Although I suppose characters knowing about Ed's gambling, maybe Joel knowing about it and not saying or doing anything about it before it spiraled out of control was maybe not the best move. Or even, Ronnie, he didn't know that the problem had got as bad as it had done. But the fact that he was still keeping on giving Ed money and saying, just look after this, don't spend it on anything when he knows what he's like wasn't the most sensible thing. But maybe that's not the secret. I don't know. I'm is there anything particular?
There's nothing really terrible.
Nothing really terrible about why on earth would you keep that secret
maybe
for
just
so long?
Nick not telling Leanne about Damon and Harvey.
Yeah, and go on.
That did lead to a bit of fallout, didn't it? He got quite mad.
It led to a fallout. It was keeping a secret from Leanne, who is probably the person I'd least like to keep a secret from. I would just be terrified that she would find out. But also the fact that by keeping that a secret from her, it did lead to a armed siege at the bistro. And I think if he'd have said, no, his brother's a wrong un, he's probably a wrong un as well, let's not have anything to do with him, maybe Sam's life wouldn't have been put at risk in the bistro.
Who can even remember that far back?
Me, I remember.
I don't even remember.
Well, there we go. It happened. Okay, well let's give it to that. Let's move on. We talked more about some of the other awards. What is the next one? I think there's going to be plenty that of nominees here, Gemma. This is your Daft Apeth Award, where we award people for just being stupid.
Daft Apeth.
Daft Apeth. Daft Apeth. It's sometimes they're purposely doing things that are daft because the scriptwriter will want to say, look how stupid they are, and sometimes maybe their actions have, they were written with all good intentions from the scriptwriter, but when we came on screen, it's like, no, why would they do that? I mean, I honestly think that one of the strongest contenders for this one came very early on at the beginning of the year, which was Alia driving off with a bomb in the van. This was like second week of 2023, and that whole story was a bit of a flop, wasn't it? Well, the episode was a flop. Was Griff and his mates putting the bomb in the speed dial van, which was parked in a relatively sheltered spot to the side of the Victoria Street Market. If the van had exploded there, it would have caused a little bit of charring.
It was fine where it was.
It was fine where it was. Now, bless Alia, she wanted to be the hero. You see a bomb, sometimes you act before you engage brain. She didn't know, to be fair to her as well, that it wouldn't have, caused some kind of grand-scale nuclear mushroom cloud of peril. It could have done. Just because it just did a little pop when she took it to the abandoned wasteland. She went to know that.
No, that's fair enough.
I think that rather than just trying to evacuate the area, and I just remember the scenes of her driving through Weatherfield for what's felt like quite a long time. I don't know where to go. Oh, hang on a minute, maybe I'll go to that abandoned ground. It felt like she was driving around for a very, very long time before she found somewhere that was so close that the people in Victoria Street heard the explosion. I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
She couldn't have driven very far away because everybody heard it, but she spent a very long time doing it. She waited until the last second. She got to the waste ground, didn't just, park it a little bit. She drove to the centre of it.
Yeah, she had to go right to the middle of it.
And then, somehow she managed to escape the blast.
Even though we didn't actually see it. She was in the car when it went off, but no.
But luckily it managed to, maybe that's a Give Over Award nominee there that managed to escape being mentioned.
Well,
I think that was a really silly thing to do, Alia.
It also had unfortunate, easy comparisons with the Batman scene where he's got a bomb.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't get rid of a bomb. You could have done, Alia. You could have done. You didn't even need to drive off with it, but I'm sure there would have been plenty of other places that you could have taken that van. Okay, what else we got? I mean, there's small fry things, like a few months ago when Amy graffitied the police car. I was thinking, why would you do that? Clearly you're going to get in trouble.
Right,
I guess maybe she wanted to get in trouble for that because she just wanted to have another rant against men.
But also, Summer shouting, "No! Don't graffiti the car!"
Yeah.
Shut up, Summer.
Oh, I think that another one for Summer should be when she was trying to escape Mike and... it was Esther. It was Esther the woman, wasn't it? Mike and Esther's nursery by banging a shoe feebly on the window. January 2020, there was a lot of questionable decisions. That was a bit of a silly thing to do, but I don't think it stands up against what Alia did with the bomb. Definitely not the graffitiing.
Stephen agreeing to marry Elaine, even though he hated her.
He was on drugs. He wasn't in control of all his actions.
Well, drinking the wrong tea.
I think, the Daft Apeth reward is more what led up to that. Accidentally spiking himself. I mean, if you're gonna be pouring LSD into someone's drink, you got to be careful about which cup that you're gonna take, and look what happened as a result of that. So that was pretty high up there. I think that I've got so many options here.
Ardy throwing the snow globe through Dev's window and then getting offended when he was very quickly identified.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid. I'm gonna have. I think that Sarah going after Damon was a bit of a Daft Apeth thing to do.
Yeah, but she's got form for liking wrongins, isn't she?
Yeah, but clearly, I guess she didn't know just how bad he was, but
it's silly.
That was very, very silly thing to do. Going back to what we were saying about the spiking, I honestly think that Rufus allowing himself to be spiked by known spiker Stephen Reed was not the most sensible thing to do. The fact that he was using that against him, blackmail. I know that you've been spiking Carla. Yeah, I'll have this drink with you. Why not?
Dumb.
He didn't know that he was going to be drowned, but I would have thought that you'd have your wits against you. Just because he got enthralled by the business chatter, I think that was a bad move from him.
What about Bernie trying to convince the Alahans that Sunita was haunting them? What was that? What was she doing?
Yeah, was that a Daft Apeth thing to do? I guess it was. A small fry in the grand scheme of things.
I mean,
I think. Oh, go on.
No, go on.
I was going to say something that was fairly big. Gemma giving Joseph the lavender oil, literally poisoning your stepson. That's up there.
I think.
At least Alia was being heroic.
I think it's the sort of thing you'd do.
Maybe. I'm not. I've never said I'm not a Daft Apeth.
How about the whole relationship between Ardy and Courtney?
Just
both
about
of them.
how ill-advised it was.
Such poor judgment from both of them there, wasn't it? Just the stupidest idea ever.
The fact that Amy was offering it to Ardy on a plate, basically, and he's like, no, I fancy this fake plastic woman, Courtney. That was a fairly bad move. Speaking of women with not much between the ears, Crystals were being impersonated by Daisy. I think many people would say that wasn't Daisy's finest hour. I personally...
Trying to boost his morale.
Yeah, I personally, at the time, saw it as I can see why she's not harming anyone. She had the best of intentions when she decided to take on Crystal's persona, and it just got a little bit spirally out of control, and maybe she stopped doing it a bit later than she should have done. But I know that there's definitely people who would saying that Daisy doing that was not the best of ideas.
What about Ryan recording himself and Daisy talking about how they had an affair?
Yes, that's a good one. That's a very, very good one. This person who had spent the last few months filming himself for the masses online forgets that the camera's running when he's talking about a secret affair that he's having. Come on, that's almost so daft that it's a give over. I can't believe he would do that, but really he deserved everything that was coming to him. I mean, you're kind of, and do any particularly stand out to you? Because you've been naming some, but you've not been telling me, how strongly.
Paul, when he first had his MND diagnosis, he went off the rails a little bit because he started doing crimes, and he also started telling Gemma he was going to give her all this money. For the wedding and stuff, and Peter offered him compensation, which I don't think he ended up having in the end, did he? Because he tried to get more, and then it turned out it wasn't even because of the car that he had the problem.
Yeah.
I think that felt quite stupid because he was piling more problems on his shoulders, and I was getting a bit frustrated with it because I was worried that, again, like many of the other stories that have happened this year, it would start off one thing, which would have been a perfectly good story, and spiraled into about 5 other things. Luckily, with Paul's MND, they've really kept it focused. Mostly. There's
the whole laptop thing.
Oh, yeah, well... Yeah.
I think with...
Bernie deciding to sell stolen laptops, probably also a bad move.
Yes, I mean, I think that family made a few questionable financial decisions over the year. Paul, at the beginning of the year, was insisting that he paid off for, Gemma's wedding. He was going to help her. Yeah, all of that, but he didn't have the money. You're right. That was not the best of moves. Yeah, exactly. There was... just a few, like Tracy supergluing her hand to the desk was a pretty daft aper thing to do, but it didn't have huge consequences, I suppose. Spider choosing his job over Toya, his soulmate, love of his life, and he's like, no, actually, I think I'm going to go back down south.
On the littlest hobo.
Absolutely daft aper thing to do.
Nothing really is... I think the biggest one to me is Alia driving a bomb.
I think it's got to be Alia with the bomb.
No, nobody's done anything as stupid as that.
Really, literally, she's putting her life at risk. Unnecessary. Yes, she was being heroic.
But right, the other thing is, she could have just gone, move away everybody, there's a bomb in there. But she said she couldn't say that because it would panic everybody. And she was worried they wouldn't get out of the way in time, so she just drove it off. Yeah,
I mean the whole premise of that episode was a little bit iffy. The fact that at the classic countdown timer, it was like something off a Danger Mouse, wasn't it? And I know that one of my pictures for the year did involve a similar device.
Bath bomb.
But I just remember watching that, thinking, Alia, what on earth are you doing? You silly girl, just stop it. There were so many other silly mistakes during the year. Beth deciding to go off with Marco. Paul turning to crime and stealing cars.
Said that.
Oh, sorry, you did say that, didn't you? David trying to kiss Maria at one point during the year.
Nothing's as bad as Alia.
Nothing as life-threateningly stupid as Alia driving off with a bomb in the van, and I think that absolutely deserves a nomination, and I'm happy for it to be the recipient of the award as well. Hooray! There we go, Alia. There you go. You got one. Right.
So we've only got 3 awards left now.
3 awards to go. That's all right. We're on track. We were about 2 hours last year. It looks like we were going to hit that mark about this year as well. Character assassination. This is a sad award, isn't it? Because really the idea behind this is a character who maybe we used to like, that through various decisions that they've made or have been made for them by the production team, we maybe don't like as much anymore because the character's just been making silly decisions, or their personalities change, or they've just done too many things where we think that's not what they're like, but now it is what they're like because their character has changed.
Yeah.
Who's your pick for this one?
I think a lot of people will agree that Spider is just not great in his return. I was defending the idea of making him a undercover police officer because there were ways you could have written it that made sense, but in the end it didn't really make any sense, and I didn't buy his reasons. I didn't buy his reasons for leaving.
More than Peter, maybe.
And he had this bizarre backstory about, I can't remember what happened now, but
there was the protests and his ex-wife, and nothing really came. I think that in a way Spider was still Spider at the end, and they managed to save it with that final scene with Toya. Well, there were a couple of nice scenes that they had, and he gave her the brooch.
She's never worn it.
I still saw elements of Spider now, and although they did certainly change who he was it as an assassination? I don't know. I think what we were saying about Nina earlier certainly puts her up there as a potential recipient of this one. We've already talked about why. I mean, it's not necessarily something that happened this year, but it's been a gradual over the course of a few years, and I think that this story that Nina had in the final few months of 2023, where she just is this massive wet blanket.
Nina's one of the worst for me because I really liked her. A lot of these characters
the saddest one
that we liked.
Yeah. I don't think anything more needs to be said about Nina. We've said it earlier, but she's certainly up there. Would you, as sacrilegious as it is, would you say that Henry's transformation was an assassination of his character?
No, not really. This is more like rehabilitation. I think a lot of people preferred him the second time around. We liked his over-the-topness and his posho buffoonery. And there wasn't very much of that, really. He was just more like a normal character.
Yeah, this is a difficult one because we were so excited about Henry coming back. We couldn't believe our luck because we've been asking about this for years. And there were definitely bits of his comeback that I liked, but I'm not going to say, oh yeah, this is exactly how I wanted Henry to be on his second time around. There weren't as many memorable scenes. There were so many in his first stint because, you're right, his buffoonishness, his silliness really struck us. But then I remember when his return was announced, I saw quite a few people online saying, oh, who wants him back? Oh, that posh toffee, he's a bit of an idiot. He was a bit irritating. But then there was when he came back into it and he was a little bit more on the level, a bit more normal and subdued. People were like, oh, I quite like him actually. And then there was a disappointment when he had his final scenes. We did get to see a few sparks of old Henry, didn't we? When my one that I remember, well, there's two really. The bit where he's calling Chesney Chester was a great classic Henry line. And when he proposes to Gemma, that was probably my favourite scene of his whole return plot, when he's there like professing his love to her. He does the double like pop of the champagne corks when he's asking for it, and he's just like utterly
for it.
Yeah, when he's asking for the champagne. I think that to me was classic Henry. But if a character has been made more palatable to the masses, can that count as an assassination, even if it's not quite what we wanted? I was just happy to have him back, to be honest. I think that Daisy, on the other hand, I think that she could even be more of a stronger contender than Nina, because I don't think we went into 2023 everyone saying, oh, Nina, she's the best thing since sliced bread, she's Corrie's rising starlet, she's everybody's favourite character, we all love Nina. I think I'm not going to say, it's not the rots had already set in, but she wasn't as high a profile as Daisy was. But if I compare what the general feeling is toward Daisy now as it was at the beginning of the year, I think she's taken a massive plunge, don't you?
I think loads of her fans were really disappointed with what she did, which I think is a strong evidence that to say she had a bit of a character assassination is correct, because they were really mad at her for cheating with Ryan, weren't they? And the fibbing and sneaking about. The
catfishing.
Yeah.
And the problem is there'd been so much sympathy built up for her during the stalking storyline. We generally, the feedback that we saw online was that everybody was loving her being stalked by Justin. They brought her mum in, who was a massive cow. There was people like Daisy going into 2023 that only built over the first 3 months. But once the acid struck, although she had some high points again, and I'm really pleased that, even though it's weird how she's got there, that she's in charge of the Rovers with Jenny now, but it feels like the wheels have come off a little bit and she isn't as universally loved, and she's kind of gone back to what she used to be, which is the Daisy that we didn't like. I suppose that's one of the reasons why I'm disappointed, is that she came in as a character that I didn't get on with, because, she was bad-mouthing Johnny, and then she kind of almost raped Ryan. She kind of definitely got him drunk and gave him a bit of a leg rub.
That had happened.
And I was like, I don't like this character. Get rid. This character doesn't even exist. She's just been made up for this story. But as 2022 went on, I got so much love for Daisy. Now I feel that with some of the things that's happened to her in 2023, it's like, oh, you tricked me. I thought that she wasn't very nice. Then you convinced me that she was a great character, and now you're telling me that she's not. And yes, it's made her a even more layered character, because who is perfect, apart from your good self, Gemma, of course.
Thank you.
But I'm just kind of leaving the year feeling a little disappointed that I don't love Daisy quite as much as I did. But I think that Charlotte Jordan is so amazing, and I am perfectly willing to forgive her. And you've got some characters who go down on my good books, and I was like, I shall not speak of you again. I am absolutely rooting to be back in Daisy's camp by the end of this year.
Rebecca suggested Stu here, because he's definitely become a bit of a whiny, annoying guy. He was a bit heroic, wasn't he, when he first came in? Because he saved Kelly, and
he was a cheeky guitar playing, coughing.
He was a bit more carefree. He's down on his luck. He's grateful for any help, and got on quite well with him. And now he's just a silly, bickering old man who.
He's in it with a grudge against Dom, and I get it. You don't want somebody coming along and stealing your newly discovered granddaughter out of your life.
But I think Corrie got a bit mixed up with what they were trying to say about Stu, because he definitely had reason to really doubt Dom's.
Yeah, especially when Dom was like, "Oh, give me £10,000 and I'll say no more."
No, that's different.
Oh,
It was when Dom turns up to pick Eliza up and he's drunk, and he was obviously drunk, and we were all confused because Stu didn't even mention it at the time. But then later on, he's like, "Oh, you came and you were drunk the other day. Like, why did you let him? Why did you let him take your grandchild away when he was drunk? I would not have ever let. I would never let an adult. If I had any kind of parental responsibility for a child, I wouldn't relinquish that to somebody who's clearly drunk and they're the only person in charge of the kid. That just seems so irresponsible. But he only ever brought it up as kind of ammunition in an argument.
Yeah.
He had some real justifications for why he didn't like Dom, and he didn't do anything about it. He hired a private investigator. Oh, it's just bonkers. Honestly,
I think that really Stu has been a victim of just not that engaging a story.
They wanted to do something with him, and they thought maybe he'd be sympathetic.
We'd be rallying behind Stu, but
he's
we're
a really charismatic actor, but
somehow
Stu is just a kind of.
He doesn't feel like he belongs.
To
me, he feels like an outsider on the street, and it's not just he's got his northeastern accent.
He's gone petty and nasty and bitter.
He's been on the show for long enough now that he should feel part of the furniture, and it's not. And partly it's because he doesn't really seem to have scenes with anybody that's not in his immediate family bubble.
But it's also that he's with Yasmin, and when they were romancing, it kind of felt sweet and like, okay, I'll go along with it. But now I'm just like, no, they're really not suited to each other. They've got nothing in common. She doesn't want to be intimate with him. I can't remember whether that
I think that's
ever got addressed.
Now. I don't think she's been haunted in the past 12 months.
But it just didn't. She wasn't really ready for a relationship. They don't get on with each other. She fancies Roy. He's too obsessed with his grandkid.
I think you were right, but I wouldn't say that his fall from grace has been as mighty as, say, Nina or Daisy's. I don't think he went into the year as much of a high. Similar with Lisa has suggested Ed as a character as assassination. I like Ed. I've not been part of the Bailey backlash as much as many of the other fans have. I've kind of liked pretty much all of them in their way, even James sometimes. But I see how he has, his constant gambling and making poor decisions with money and just being a bit of a whinger and ending up robbing his family on Christmas Day has certainly put him into the gutter.
That's
if he
definite character assassination, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're to believe that he's always been an addict. That's the thing. It's not like we've just made up that he's got a gambling addict problem. That's always been part of his character, so I think they've almost been true to his character here and uncovered a bit more of his unsavoury side. What about... you shut me down talking about him before, but Aaron, is he a character assassination?
I can't...
He certainly,
No, we can't have this. No. Because the thing is about a character assassination, there's the implication that it's unwarranted or unjustified in some way, or unfairly treating a character, and I'm not comfortable with saying, "Oh, poor Aaron, they really did dirty." I don't know. I don't want him.
I mean, Aaron was never anybody's favourite character at the beginning of the year.
I don't know. No, I don't think it's. I would agree if this was not a bit frivolous. I don't want any implication to be that we.
I'm sad that it has happened because I wasn't a biggest fan of Aaron at all when he came in mid-2022, but I was starting to grow to like him.
But I think that's the whole point, though.
Yeah, and James Craven was lovely when we met him a couple of times.
It doesn't feel... It's not a character assassination because it's not unintentional. And it's not like... I think a character assassination is like... But in the process of writing this story, we've accidentally made this person look like a massive dickhead.
Okay, so we seem to be...
I think Aaron's story, if it was not why he was brought in, it certainly feels like it was a decision made very early on. And the whole reason that he was so likeable was so that it would be shocking when he... and also to prove that it, you know, almost could be anybody. So it wasn't really a character assassination.
Well, I think then we're torn between Nina and Daisy, and then you could say, you know, Daisy reverted to type. So is that an assassination, that she was always a bit of a bad lass, whereas Nina. But that was the biggest fall from where she had risen to, whereas Nina, over the course of the year, and probably a bit before that, just kind of dribbled away down to something that I really, really hope that they can save at the end of the year. Would you prefer one over the other?
I think... What?
No, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm torn.
I think the fallout for Nina's not apparent yet. I think we've still got depth to plumb, unfortunately, for her. I think it's going somewhere, you know, further than it has. And whereas Daisy seems like she's gone as low as she can. I think next year's going to be Daisy digging herself out of a hole.
I don't know whether Nina will, though. That's a sad thing. I don't know whether Nina's going to get out of here. So is that the biggest assassination, that it's put her into a bit of an, you know, unrecoverable position? I
think I'm going to say, I think that a sure sign of a character assassination is that if somebody and I always use this example, if somebody started watching the show now, would they be baffled as to why Nina is or was a popular character? Yeah, I think they would be. Not Daisy, though, because I think Daisy's still got redeemable features and she still seems like, you know, she's got a bit of pushback to her, whereas Nina's just like the ghost in the attic, isn't she? Knocking lamps over and sort of...
So are you saying...
I'm sorry.
So are you saying you want Nina for this one?
Nina.
I'll go with Nina, that's fine. It's a real shame. Again, Molly Gallagher, lovely.
I don't think it's intentional either. I think that Daisy, I think they made a choice with Daisy, and there's enough in her back history to sort of justify it. You know, she's making wrong decisions... and this is going to rile everybody up, and it's going to be a big talking point, and it all has been. Whereas nobody sat down in the writers' room and went, "Let's make Nina really boring and whiny."
Yeah, no, you're right. And she went through quite a long period after the hate crime where we didn't see anything of her at all. And so I was saying, "Hey, bring back Nina. Let's have more Nina." But it's like, not like this.
And you know, and the justification is obviously, you know, it's a mental health issue and.
I mean, I suppose her assassination. She did start having those flashbacks, didn't she? And she got really clingy and wanting to.
Yes, of course. She had a mental health issue. But this is again what they do to strong female characters.
Okay,
and
Nina, it is.
It's a fault of the show, I think, and they need to really stop doing it because it's so frustrating to watch it happen over and over again. No matter what the story is or what the reason is, it's always, here's this really popular female character, good looking, everyone likes them, popular. Let's ruin their lives because we know they're good at acting, and everyone will be sad, and it will get the front pages. And it'll be a good story because, you know, I'm not going to say they're not good stories. They are. They're really good stories what they do to these characters, but then they just crumble. And they're like, let's be realistic about what would the ramifications be? Yeah, they'd have a mental health crisis. Yeah, she's got anxiety. She's got PTSD. It's like, yeah, okay, but that happens to all of them, and then they just become sad and reclusive, and they barely ever get back to how they used to be. And maybe that is realistic, but is that
what we want to see?
Is that what you want to see? And also, is it a really strong message?
Yeah.
Not really, because it makes you think. Yeah, maybe it kind of supports people with mental health issues, but it also makes you feel like if something bad happens to you, just forget trying to recover from it. You're just going to be sad for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That's not what anyone wants to think.
No.
I mean, the same thing happened to Yasmin.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can name almost any character, any female character, like Carla, Yasmin, I mean, even Toya. Just I'm sad now, and I'm never going to be happy
I
again.
think Toya must have got that this award last year after making her a murderess. Okay, Rovers' rubbish return story. So which returning character in 2023 was just like, oh, you probably shouldn't have done that. That was a bit of a bad move bringing them back. Now, 2023 wasn't as big for returns as 2022 had been when we had Stephen, we had Martha, we had... not Martha, who am I talking? Oh no, we did have Martha. We had Wendy, Spider, obviously, but we had a few, and I think Spider. I mean, Jack suggested him as a potential. Was this a Rovers rubbish return because we saw his ending played out? Was it a rubbish return, Spider? Yes. And once the whole extremism story had quietened down. When was it? January, February time. He just kind of bumbled along, not doing much, turning up at a chili eating contest before his final week or two when he flubbed out. So that could be up there. I've got to mention Henry. I'm not going to give it to him. I couldn't. I could not give rubbish return to a character that I was so happy to see back. But I'm not going to lie, it wasn't the exact Henry that I wanted to see. But it wasn't rubbish. It wasn't rubbish. Is there anyone particularly that out of the minor returns that you think could be up there?
Zidane.
Zidane.
Why did he come back?
So his story was a weird one. He was petering out towards the end of 2022 anyway. Then he showed up on Christmas Day, and then he disappeared off again. And then he came back for what? 2 weeks? February time-ish, maybe January, to say, I've made up with Mariam. She's accepted that I watched her father die. We're back together again. Bye, we're off.
And it was
Wasn't
odd.
it?
It was just odd.
That really kind of smacked of Kazim wants to leave. Let's get him out.
It's like we need to write him out. Everyone was demanding, "Where's Zidane? I want the conclusive ending.
I want some closure on Zidane.
I need to know." Like nobody really cared. I mean, no offense, but again, character assassination was Zidane. I think because he was actually quite cool when he first came in. He was an interesting person. There's nobody else like him on the.
Yeah, I enjoyed Zidane for a good while, but his recent stint has not been the best for him.
No.
I saw, speaking of which, I did think that Jack was sporting a bit of a Zidane hairdo at the bus stop the other day. Did anybody else notice that?
I think it's sad too because there's no other Muslim man on the street, and there certainly isn't ever been a religious Muslim character as sympathetic as
No, he
Zidane.
had lots of potential. They character assassinated him during the Rana story.
Represented, a group of people that don't see themselves on telly very much at all, and he just bye.
Yeah, we also had coming back last year Jackson and Miley. Jackson, much bigger, much older,
hatched out of the corpse of the old actor.
Yeah,
like he kind of ate his way out into this giant man.
That was a bit of a rubbish return. I didn't think that Jackson was in any way enjoyable to watch or charming or anything. I just, but his return was a means of getting Faye off of the show, and I'm kind of sad. I am sad for Ellie Leach, although she's obviously gone on to do great things with her Strictly. But that whole story for me was just, it was a necessary means to something that had to happen. We got more Craig.
If they were going to do it in any way, I think they did a really good job of giving her something. I thought it was a bit of a crappy cop out if you're watching it and you are going through premature menopause like she was, and she's struggling, thinking about fertility, the fact that she would never be able to have kids, and Craig was talking to her about having kids and she didn't know what to do about it. Like, if you're watching that and you're thinking, gosh, that's just like me, I'm really sad because I've got the same thing, but at least, I can go through it with her and I can see myself. And then she went, oh yeah, magically got a baby that's grown up now from my past as a soap character, so that's all right.
Yeah, this is more Faye though rather than Jackson, and I suppose to be a rubbish return you have to have some kind of level of expectation that they're going to be good, and it's like nobody cared about Jackson. Nobody was saying, oh yes, Jackson, brilliant. No, it's just like, oh Jackson's back, is it? Oh, okay. I suppose that's the same for like Linda's return. She came back for the wedding for a bit, tried to splash her cash around, had a bit of a wedding cake fight. That wasn't the best, but I didn't have high hopes for Linda.
I don't get why everyone hates her so much. Again,
she's been pretty cowy just this past few weeks.
Sorry, I always think this. If I genuinely thought that she's not even any relation to Chesney, but let's pretend that she sees him as a son. I guess she thinks of him as her son-in-law, even though he's not. If my son-in-law's partner I thought was poisoning my grandkid, I would be a lot more horrible to her than Linda was. I wouldn't just be sniping at her from the other side of the room. I'd be standing over her, watching everything she did.
Okay. Well,
if you genuinely thought, this is the thing, people on soaps don't seem to ever have the courage of their convictions. If you genuinely think that she's trying to kill your grandson, you'd have a few cross words, wouldn't you?
She was kind of, I think the way that she's been written, and we shouldn't really be talking about this because it's 2024, not 2023, is that it's a bit like she's purposefully being nasty and cowy about it.
For no reason.
But you're right,
justified.
I think it could be justified. Big Garth came back for 2 episodes this year. Again, no,
grass.
I was just happy
Big grass,
I was just happy to see Big Garth. Do you remember? I think it must have been 2023. Do you remember the story the scenes where Dev was getting jealous of Bernie hanging around Big Garth? She heard about it, or she'd seen a message from him, and he's like, Big Garth? Big? Why do you call him Big? That was funny. But I don't think there are any other big returns other than that. I don't know whether... Like, the biggest disappointment was surely Spider, but he didn't come back in 2023. So I don't know whether he's eligible for the award. And in which case, I guess by default it'd go to Zidane. But I don't know, if you're happy with Spider to have it, because it was just a bit of a shame how it ended.
I'm happy with either of them.
I'm glad Spider came back. I'd rather we got what we got than not seeing him again. Because I love him.
I think Zidane should get this because it was just a head scratcher.
The whole fact that it was mixed up with Mariam saying, fair cop, my dad was a bit of an arse, wasn't he? I'd have probably watched him die too. That's just so Zidane and Mariam can jointly take home the Rovers Rubbish Return Award. I suppose we can, Philip Newton as well, because I forgot, but he came back for a few episodes.
Pippi Newton.
But he was fine, so we won't give it to him. Finally, and unlike the other awards, we don't build up to the big one in the Bobbins Award, because this is a bit of a Bobbins order we've got here. There's the Weatherfield Wayfarer Award, which is where we just kind of take the mickey out of characters disappearing off for a little while for various reasons, and the naff ways that are concocted up for them to explain their characters off-screen or disappearance, when really, in many cases, they could have just not mentioned them.
We wouldn't have noticed a lot of these because the duration was so short, and characters frequently disappear off screens for longer periods of time just because they haven't got a storyline. So we don't need a parent's note to explain the absence of, for example, Lily and Shona.
This
for a 6-week football course.
Sometimes it's just saying, hey, look at us, our actress has gone on maternity, look what we're doing. And in this, oh my god, Lily going off for a football course, I just don't, but I don't know what I would think is least convincing, Lily being a pro footballer or Bernie beating Dev at golf, because that was last year as well, wasn't it? But saying that Lily has been taken off of school to go on this football course, we've never seen her playing football, she doesn't strike me as the sort of person, and anybody can play. I don't want to say, only these sort of people can play football, but I do not believe that she's into football that much.
We hear a lot about how much she loves football, but we've never seen her play. It's another example of Corrie telling us something, and when they could show us, and I'm sure they could get the actress to kick a ball into a wall. It wouldn't take...
I think we might have seen her kick a ball into a net in the back garden once. They do. we got to be careful what we wish for, because when we saw James playing football just before his little heart incident, so that was a particularly weird reason for Shona to go off on maternity leave, or Julia's maternity leave, and it was so short. It was 6 weeks, 7 weeks max. I think we could have just not mentioned it at all. I also think that in terms of believability factor, Fizz going off to run this factory in Norwich, which is
odd.
Very. And is it part of Underworld? I don't know. They mentioned Angelique the other week.
You said it was
didn't they?
Angelique's factory, but why?
I don't
Carla
remember.
going, yeah, that's fine.
It felt like it was
Doesn't make any
Stephen
sense.
setting it up, and it was him who decided to give it to Fizz because Beth wanted it at first, didn't she?
Yeah.
She wanted the supervisor's job, and originally she was told this is going to be 6 months, but actually it's been more like 8 or 9 now, and she's
That's a
still not
suspicious
back.
number, isn't it?
So I don't know what's going on there. It feels like at first Jenny McAlpine's disappearance has been extended. And fair enough, it's down to her. But I don't really believe that Fizz would leave her loving family. And out of all the families on the street, that one at number 9 to me seems the tightest knit. I don't believe that she'd go away for that long a period.
No, it's really hard to think of good reasons to write out female characters with families for maternity. You know, I don't envy them having to come up with these ideas, but they very rarely get good ones. And this is just silly because she, you know, the reason that she takes a job is because she suddenly gets a bout of, like, what's the word, ambition out of nowhere. She's never really cared about having a career or anything. Suddenly she really, really desperately wants to be a supervisor in a factory, but she also is going to get paid loads.
Double the wages, I think it was.
Yeah, and I think they say some, you know, I just don't believe that you'd ever get paid enough working as a supervisor in a knicker factory to justify running 2 households in this country, because she's got... I don't remember if they made something up about her getting free room and board or anything, but she's got to be paying another set of bills out of that wages. It's not going to be very much money extra at the end of the day.
No.
And would you really want to miss out on your kids' lives for when they're that age?
No.
For so long. I mean, she's not even going to have the same kid when she gets back.
It's very true. She's gone, Ruby, you have changed. And also, you know, Cassie's appeared on the scene. You'd have thought she might have come and checked her
She's not come to visit either. Norwich is not, you know... It's
a bit of a way of a way.
Yeah, it's not like the south of France or anything.
No.
I mean, it's closer to us. Those 2 places are closer than we are to Manchester, and we've been to Manchester more times than Fizz has. And they could even say, like, oh yeah, Fizz was here, you know, a day that we didn't have the episode on. You missed her.
I think those are the 2 biggest ones that they've had to explain with weird reasons.
Okay, no, to me, the stupidest one was when Carla went, I'm abruptly leaving for 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, when she
to
went
go
to
Spain, and there's no way anyone can talk me out of it. I have to go. The client's threatening to pull out. Number one, nobody in the history of the underworld has ever gone to another country to get a deal with anyone for any reason.
Not as far as I can remember off the
Not
top
that
of my
I can
head.
remember either.
Prove us wrong.
And well, it was during a massive crisis when Peter just killed Stephen.
That's the thing. He was at his
really
lowest
sad.
ebb.
And she's like, well, sorry, but I've got a deal to sort out.
Yeah, don't
Stephen
worry, you got
stole my
Simon
money.
here. You're right, that was pretty stupid. A couple of other absences that are worth bringing up, like Kevin and Debbie going off to Germany because a Bill died. Sorry, Bill, you had to take one for the team there. I don't know what was going on that meant that had to happen. I know that.
Mike
Lavelle is. What was that? You talking different story. Debbie, Sue Devaney.
Sue Devaney had, did a lot of work, theatre work.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why she needed the time. But...
There was Mike in the news last year with all the phone hacking stuff as well, wasn't there? So I don't know whether it was. I don't know whether it was tied into that, but I kind of feel sad that Bill's dead and we didn't even get much of a story out of it. But obviously Peter Armitage died a good few years ago, so they couldn't exactly bring him back. I think that Bernie going to prison, and I don't know whether this is for this year or next year that it gets a nomination, but the fact that she went away for all of 5, 6, 7 weeks and nothing really changed, Paul's still kind of the same as he was when she went in, that felt like a bit of a disappointment. But I don't feel it was as egregious as some of the other ones that we said earlier. I'd kind of like to give it to Lily in a football course. Have you got any strong feelings?
I think Carla, because it just baffled me.
It's a bit like a few years ago, and maybe it got the award then, when Roy went to South America after he'd lied about what's his face,
exile myself
down
to
in
South America.
in the sinkhole. It was a bit like that, wasn't it? It felt like a really strange time for Carla to go and unnecessary. And I'll give it to that one.
I'm happy for that. Or
let's give it to Lily. It tickles me the idea of Lily being such a footballing protege that she can go away from school.
And the school's like, yes, we need a new lioness in this country. Well, somebody has to invest in the future of women's football.
I just kind of feel bad because there's no real reason why I couldn't picture Lily as being, as you say, the next lioness, and women's football is huge at the moment. What with all how well
it's just really weird. I don't think people in this country really do that.
No,
I think that also can I just also. Well. When did it happen?
It was February, March sort of time.
Yeah, I question the logic of anyone who runs a 6-week course in term time for children to do sports.
And the thing is, what has she done with it? What has she done with these newfound skills that she acquired in her 6 weeks away down south?
I want her to bust a bullion ring by booting Mason in the head, maybe.
Maybe that's the
maybe that's where it's going. Maybe we're just churlish.
I think we have reached the end of the Bobbins Awards for another year. That was fun, wasn't it? Now we've got that off our chests, and finally we can start talking about 2023. And in some ways, forget it ever happened because we've done all of our other awards now.
By no means was that the only stupid things that happened in the last.
There was plenty more, and if anyone has got anything that was really got their goat, and you think, how did you not mention this? Of course, feel free to write in and let us know at conversationstreet@gmail.com. We can give it a shout out. But thank you to everybody on our Patreon who did already add to our discussion that was going on there, because it was nice to have a few others that confirmed what I'd said, but there was a few new ones as well. If you would like to be part of our Patreon, just head over to patreon.com/conversationstreet and you can get involved in all that lovely stuff too. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that. As I said at the start of the show, I know that there's some people that really look forward to this particular episode since we've been doing it for the last 5-6 years. Hope it satisfied you. And I'm not going to apologise really, but I will. For the people who absolutely hated the Stephen storyline, probably thinking that it's got off incredibly lightly in the past 2.25 hours. I get it. I get why you don't like it. Don't think I don't. I can absolutely see that it was utterly ridiculous and silly and farcical. But
we liked it.
We kind of liked it.
There's no accounting for taste.
There were bits of it I didn't like. Like, it got a bit too businessy at times.
I didn't like how quickly it ended.
But it really helped make 2023 for me. Yes, there were utterly ridiculous things.
I'm sure there are people who really hated the Steam storyline who now maybe don't even want to admit this to themselves. Maybe miss it a bit because
I think there are.
What is left?
I think there probably are people that are saying, "Oh, I wish that Stephen hadn't left quite so soon. I'd change my mind about him." I know there's people saying, "No, I don't. I'm glad he's gone."
I'm glad he's dead.
We're all entitled to our own opinion. Which is fine. We just happen to agree on this one.
Okay, right. But not with you. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you at the weekend.
See you at the weekend, everybody.
Oh, maybe
before because it's a funny week this week with episodes. But anyway, we're finished now. Yeah. I've got more work to do. Bye.
Bye.